Expect it.
Yep, we're a couple wizards.
We are a wizard and a warlock, and we are
precisely when we need to.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're live, so we got to stop that other conversation. I'm just kidding. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another lovely episode of the Brandon Bonanza show. It's quickly becoming one of the best shows on the internet, along with my other show. Oh shit, I didn't mute it. I get a rookie mistake. It's good though.
Whoa!
I know. I'm like, wait, I just said that. No, he said that. Anyway, I have a quote today, so I'm going to pull that up before we get into it, and I forget about it. So here we go. Today's quote is by Rudolf Steiner. The stars once spoke to man. It is world destiny that they are silent now, but in their silence, there grows and ripens what man speaks to the stars. And there's my cat speaking to me. Did you hear that?
Oh, I just did.
That's a quote from Thumper. He said,
"Aw."
It's profound, I tell you. Every time he talks, come here, buddy. He just wants attention.
Like a YouTuber.
Yeah, like that. Have you heard of that guy, MrBeast, by the way? Have you heard of this guy?
No.
He's
Tell me all about him.
Oh man. So I guess he's like fourth like number one guy on YouTube. He's huge now, but he's like this 23-year-old guy.
This is the guy that does it with PewDiePie, right?
I'm not sure. That might be, but he does all these things where he like gives stuff away. Like he'll have a block of $1 million and he has people come in and hold their hand on it, and the last one gets to keep it, but he does all this humiliating stuff to them. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like all these humiliation rituals that he does to people. And what's his name? Owen was breaking him down recently, and he found a video of him saying this guy's name for 17 hours. He sat there in front of a computer when he was like 17 and just said this name over and over and over and over. And there was like a counter because he wanted to say it like 100,000 times or something.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's like, I think he's summoning somebody. And then whoever the guy was, I don't remember the guy's name, but who the guy, MrBeast was saying or whatever, I guess he had some big show, and then he ended up going on that guy's show and all this stuff. Yeah, that's some like weird stuff going on. But I don't even think he went to the bathroom. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe he just pissed his pants or had a diaper on. I don't, but
it all depends.
I was trying to think of something funny with relative. It's all, yeah. You nailed it though with that one. It's all about the depends. But man, I guess go ahead.
Can you imagine? Like, just it sounds like a terrible dream, right? Just someone going, Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon. For like 17 hours.
No. It's like Brandon Smith. He's like Brandon Smith, like whatever the name was. It was me, guys. He was saying my name, but
totally.
Yeah, there's no big deal. But it was just creepy, I guess, to say the least. And I guess a lot of people, obviously, because he's like number 4 on YouTube, but I guess the younger folks all the kids know who he is, and like they watch him and stuff for all that younger generation. And apparently he was just on Rogan's podcast, and then after they were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I was in Walmart. He's like, I can't believe it. He's like, all the old people were coming up to me and were like, wow, you're on Rogan. He's like, so he was kind of dissing Rogan because he was like, I was in Walmart and all the old people were coming up to me. It was like this, you dick. We see what you're saying, but yeah, it was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's because I think a lot of people freak out about like the television and all this stuff these days, but it's like, no, people are watching this crazy MrBeast guy give stuff away. It's kind of like bum fights, it's like one step above bum fights.
Yeah.
So,
you ever set up your own bum fight? Like throw a pound of crack on the floor?
I can't talk about it actually. So contractually, I'm obligated to not talk about it.
Well, that's the fun part.
We didn't really do bum fights, but when I was hanging out in good old New Haven, Connecticut, the home of Yale, I used to hang out there a lot and then DJ there a lot. There was bums that we all knew, and we would kind of not make them bum fight, but we mess with them a little bit. But there was a lot of them were just you could tell they weren't totally homeless. Like this one guy was there and he had like a Gore-Tex jacket on, and I'm looking at, and this is like in the mid 2000s. I'm like, dude, that jacket already had like these boots. I'm like, those boots cost more than my shoes. I'm like, I'm not giving you money. Get out of here. Yeah. So we've always had a fun time with bums, especially the unstable ones. Yeah.
Oh man, when I was younger, there was this thing, right, where I'd go to church. My family's like super Christian, like extreme Pentecostal,
like extra
you
Jesus.
know, extra Jesus. Like we studied our exegesis and our extra Jesus and all the Jesus you could take in, like too much Jesus, to the point where I'm convinced that I had to grow a beard just to grow it longer than Jesus beard, just to prove a fucking point.
Just so my mom loves me. Come on, mom.
Point right here. Yeah. And
epic.
yeah, man, this is like the beard crew. I like this. I like all my favorite like real men have like real beards. It's a tell,
Yeah,
but yeah, I
there's something about it. Like you just don't give a fuck. Like I'll go to a wedding because I DJ weddings on the weekends, and I usually will just meet the couple. Now these days on Zoom we meet, and then I'll meet them in person. And I went to this one wedding, and everybody had long hair and everybody had beards, and I was like, all right, I get in. Like I look like I belong. Yeah, it was great.
It's how it's meant to be.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Man, and so I go to these church meetings, right? And these like it was always prophets of some kind, and they would always do this thing, right? Man. Oh, it drive me nuts because you want to go like these guys, like once you get out of it, you want to go like there's nothing to it, they're just a bunch of charlatans. That's kind of what you want to say, but I'm wearing apparently some sort of giant sign, like neon sign over my head that says, "Look at me." This is pre-beard, of course, but these guys would point me out of the crowd over and over, and like we're talking anywhere from 100 to 1,000 people, and they are doing this here and there, but they're hitting maybe 20 a night, right? Like out of the whole crowd, but every time I would go, I was one of them. They point me out, "You stand up, young man," and I'd like stand up and like, me, who, me? And like, of course it was me, because it was always me. It was like it got to be really weird because like they would point at me and start saying really accurate stuff about what I'm about to do in my life, like big life changes that I'm planning, that I'm like a month away from going to ministry school. They're pointing out at me and say, you are about to embark on a massive journey, and finally, for the first time in your life, you're going to have horses your age to run with. And I was like a homeschool kid, and and so it was like way too accurate to be weird. But on the flip side of that, right, there's always the two poles of this stuff. You get the fun stuff like that, and then you get like whatever you go out to the grocery store, and there's the local homeless guy that has the reputation in town, like, "Oh, that's Jeffy, don't fuck with Jeffy, he's let's just go crazy." But Jeffy would always just point at me, just the whole time. It just like walk up into my face and point, and I'm like the only one there doing this, and the schizophrenic guy is like in my face pointing at me. They're like, what is happening? Why is this always happening? Why is there always some dude pointing at me? And how come the crazy ones don't say anything at all? They just oh. It was really funny.
They're like, "One day you're gonna be me," and you're like, "Fuck."
Yeah, just you wait. Buy yourself a shovel. And I don't know what it means. Like, why do I need a shovel, man? Buy a shovel, they say. They didn't actually say that, but they would just point all the time. And my mom would she didn't believe me until this started happening around her, and she's like, "Holy cow, there's like, you have such a destiny." You're gonna preach in front of millions. And now here I am on YouTube doing podcasts.
Yeah, she's like, "One day you're going to be on the Brandon Bonanza show."
It was foretold.
And you guys are going to talk about bum fights.
Bum fights, coke, and snorting marijuana.
Snorting marijuana, vaping coke. Yeah, I have similar experiences to that. Not like, well, I did used to go to a born again Christian church from like 4th grade till about 6th or 7th grade. And I would always be like sitting with the adults and Bible study, you know, like I would always be like either listening and sometimes saying something profound. And
Right.
well, side story to that, which is funny, is one time I met this woman online somehow, you know, and she was like, I guess interested in dating me, but she was a born again Christian and she was trying to convert me. And I was like, but no, I was already like, you know, I went through that. I learned it just wasn't my thing. And she's like trying to tell me, I'm like, no, like when I was, I don't know, how old are you in 4th grade? I was like 10 or something. I'm like, you know, I was sitting with the elders that I was like, you know, I'm like, you know that story of Jesus when he's 12?
Yeah,
Like,
literally Jesus. No, I'm not Jesus. I just look exactly like him.
Yeah,
that's what I always tell people.
Yeah, I DJ'd Sunday to Sunday night at this one venue, and a lot of Spanish people work there, and they're always like, DJ Jesus, like Jesus, and I'm like, Jesus en la casa. So when I get there, they're like, Jesus en la casa. I was like, yeah.
Yep. So, you're white enough. You can go, Jesus de la luz.
Yeah,
Jesus is the light, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I wore white.
Yeah,
to
because
make me look more
white
Christ-like.
is right, everybody.
Yeah, wear your shirts, bleach them.
I used to say that at this dealership I worked at. I was like, for one time, I was like one of the only white dudes there. Was all like Spanish or Puerto Rican, a couple black dudes, and I was like, white is right, and they were fucking loving it. I had them all saying it. It was great. I'm starting my own cult of white people who think white is right, and none of them are white. It was great. But yeah, throughout my life, I've always had people come up to me and just like open up and start talking. One of the craziest ones that I remember, and this plays into like a lot of the psyops that go on, because people will be like, oh, that's totally fake, this psyop, or you know, or it's totally real or whatever, you know. Well, I was in Vegas. I flew into Vegas the night of the shooting. Like I probably told you about this before, but the plane got diverted that we were on to land because the shooting was happening. So we got diverted to Phoenix for like 20 minutes, and they flew us right there and dumped us into the fray. They're like, here you go. And I had friends that were already there, and it was like nuts. And one of the craziest things is we were staying at the Luxor, however you say it, which is right next door to Mandalay Bay. And we didn't have plans to go to that concert, but it was on a Sunday, and we were going to get there early just to hang out because we were going for the week to go to like some mobile beat, or it's like a wedding conference or something. You have all these motivational speakers and equipment and all this stuff. So anyway, so something happened and we had to fly in later. So people we were going to go with flew in, and they were down the street. They were staying somewhere else, but they said they can hear gunshots like up and down the strip like this. And there was multiple reports of like gunshots at every casino. It was crazy. But
from that Australian helicopter, right?
Yeah. Dude, I've seen the helicopter guy talk about. That's crazy. The footage that he shows, like the police body cam and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So anywho, we get there, and at this point you can't go to the Luxor. So we go to another hotel for the night. And, it was the next day we were allowed to go, and it was crazy when we pulled out. Maybe it was the next morning. I can't remember, but we drove by that place, and there was all these mourners there, like people crying and all this stuff. It was really freaky. And one time we were headed back to the hotel, and I saw Anderson Cooper, and I was like, we were an Uber driver, and I'm like, hit that dude. I'm like, I'll give you all the money in my pocket, run that guy over. And the people that I was with, like a couple of them, or one of them, two of them were like liberal, you know, they're like, why? I don't understand. He's such a nice guy. And I'm like, that guy's evil. Like,
such a nice guy.
I love him. I mean, I wouldn't hit him now, but back then. So anyway, I was one of these crazy nights. I was there. I was playing poker I think I was at Caesars or maybe the Bellagio. I can't remember, one of those. And I was playing poker, and I went to go to the bathroom, and I'm in the bathroom. This guy comes in, is like older, Spanish looking, maybe Mexican or something guy. And like, I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but
oh yeah,
everything's a scam, you know, like you could just see it coming a mile away. So this guy comes in, and he's kind of like talking to me. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, he's probably going to ask me for money or something, you know, and he's talking.
Right.
And he's like, you know, my daughter was at the thing and got shot. Like, but she didn't die. She lived, and she was at the hospital. So he's like, I spent the last 2 days at the hospital, and now they told me to kind of go for a walk. So I'm going, you know, and being nice and empathizing, but I'm waiting for something like an ask, like this guy's going to be like, so can you have a 3-way with me and my midget? No. It's Vegas, dude. It's like,
I got a goat and a dwarf and a jar of peanut butter up in my room. What do you say?
Exactly. Like this guy wants something from me. I thought maybe it was just money, but so he's telling me about this and he's kind of crying. He's upset. And we walk outside. I just walk out of the bathroom with him. And his wife is right there, this other lady, and they just start talking and then they leave. It's like, so I was like, wow. Yeah. No ask. They didn't ask me for anything, not even to join their midget show or for $1. The guy was just, I guess he just noticed my energy because this is like 2018. So I was already into a lot of spirituality and, I was definitely, I didn't have this beautiful flowing hair yet, but it was coming. So he probably sensed it. He saw that, I didn't have it, but he saw
if it's coming, it's always there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, grounded extracts. What's going on? Shannon, how you doing? Nigel, Caribe Root, Wig Splat. What's up, Philip? Killing it in the chat right now.
I love you guys.
Yeah, so that story really always stuck with me, especially once I got into learning. I didn't really believe the official story because I was still one of those people. I was like, nah, I knew about 7-Eleven already being an inside job and stuff. So but I was still, once I got into everything is fake, or I encountered that, I was like, well, I still have this crazy story. And then I also when the Handy Sook thing happened in Connecticut with the school, we'll just say, freaking Alex Jones getting sued for $1 billion.
God, what a joke.
Somebody said that to me, and I'm like, come on, you really, like, how ridiculous do they have to make it before you're like, yeah, this is a show? But
we fancy ourselves comedians. Clearly we got in the wrong industry, man. We should have just been judges.
I know.
Like,
right?
Jesus,
or people who write scripts for reality, you know what I mean? Unless it's just all manifesting because of, I don't know, man. It's like, maybe there's a comedian manifesting all this, something like that. I don't know.
You don't say. The Kachinka, maybe? the sacred clown? The holy pie thrower?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy. I think I'll finish my story in a minute, but it could be like one evil, like, mwahaha guy, or maybe he's not even evil from that standpoint. He's more like a realist. He's like a eugenicist kind of evil. He's just a bean counter. And then one clown, and they're always like, they're kind of at war, but they could still have dinner together, like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in Heat, where they sit down and they
Totally, man. Like, that's exactly how I see it too. Finish your story. I got something to launch into from that, man.
Oh, perfect. Okay, well, the Handy Sook thing, I'll call it. I was dating a girl at the time that was from one town over, and she used to work at a daycare, and one of the kids that was, she knew him, like, she used to watch him and stuff. So it's like, so I could be, I just try to take this as information, and I think there's a reason. It's like a synchronicity why that happened. So it's kind of like I don't get lost, or I don't think I know exactly, because a lot of people get stuck to what they know and they think they know. But now I'm like, I have this conundrum because it's possible that he did get, or it's also possible that the family, I was talking about this maybe on a show recently, but there's, how they used to have these movies about Russia and the KGB agents who were sleeper cells.
Totally.
And they had no idea. And then one day they just got they cut their chicken open and there was like a message in there and like, oh, fuck, I gotta.
Yep. Man, so,
now I gotta report back to Mother Russia. And so maybe there's that exists too, where these families just kind of go along with all this stuff, but it's very fascinating because, like I said, it keeps me in a state of not knowing exactly, which I like, because I think the mystery is better. People think they have it figured out. It's like, come on, man, these guys are way too good to, but
I'm right with you, man. I think...
shout out to Zeralath too. He's in the chat. He was actually at that wedding with all the long people. All the people long hair, all the long people. And I texted him because during the ceremony, the groom was referencing Thor and all this stuff. So I'm like, dude, text it. And he runs over to hear it. It was funny. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to think it's all that what plays out in the material, right, is it's sort of like astrology, right? You look at the stars, and you could, I'm not a big astrologer or astronomer or anything intelligent like that, but these people will say that this is happening and it's going to happen, and how do you know? Well, I looked up and I saw it in the stars, so this is what's going to happen. It's obvious to them, right? And I tend to think that things happen as a metaphor, and they happen in the sky as a metaphor, and then they happen below as a metaphor, and it's the above meeting the below, and that the human species is this being that is literally the cross, right? You got the cross of Christ, if you will.
Wait till I blow your mind with what I think the cross is, because it lines up. But keep going.
Oh, okay. So I think that you have here, like, let's try to find. So I have nothing. I've got nothing to illustrate with on my desk. This is terrible. But so I'm going to use my fingers, because I'm really good with stick figure drawings and fingers. So this is my finger art. Just pretend
I've heard that one before.
Knuckles aren't here.
I'm
really good with my fingers, man. But so you have, like, the main cross section here, which is the horizontal, which is the heaven. We'll call that heaven. And then, I'm sorry, vertical. And then you have the horizontal of the cross, which is earth. And the intersection of the two is where heaven meets earth. It's that central point where these two things intersect and become one piece altogether. So I think that a lot of these things, like when we say it's all fake, and I've kind of backed off the faking gay thing, but I think it's all fake, but I think it's completely real, just as though I am a metaphor, and I'm a living, walking, breathing metaphor for whatever it is that my life and my experience is meant to unfold and play out. I am that. And so it is with the rest of the world, that it's all just a giant metaphor. And these things are already meant to happen. And so it's like, if the metaphor of your life is, say, to have $1 million, it will just so happen to work out that you'll have $1 million, whether it's winning the lottery, whether it's finding a bag on the floor with $1 million in it, whether it's, being offered a job. Hey, do my wedding gig. And somebody tips you $1 million, like whatever it is, if the metaphor is part, if it requires you having that $1 million to fulfill that metaphor, it's just going to happen. And you can say that it was some divine setup. You can say it was all orchestrated from a long time ago from people that you didn't even know. You can find out that the dude that handed you the briefcase with the $1 million in it was a Mason, and go like, oh, it was a Masonic evil thing, and now I'm a millionaire thanks to the Masons. You can do all that stuff, or you can just go, yeah, it's the metaphor playing itself out, and this is how it is, and this is how it must be. And that's how I see all of it. And we were talking before the show, we were talking about the poles, right? The two extremes of this stuff. But not to quote Nietzsche too much, because that's its own special. Nietzsche is his own Nietzsche, man, let me tell you. But he says, man is beast and super beast. The higher man is inhuman and superhuman. These belong together. With every increase of greatness in height in man, there is also an increase in depth and terribleness. One ought not to desire the one without the other, or rather, the more radically one desires the one, the more radically one achieves precisely the other. Terribleness is part of greatness. Let us not deceive ourselves.
Wow. Yeah. Holy crap.
And so I've been playing with this idea for like since before we had our last show, man. I've been rolling with this idea from just logic itself. But then I come across it in the Kybalion, where everything has its opposite, and that opposites themselves are just a matter of degree, and that's really it. And I dabble in in fun occultism style, or rub my hands, you know. but I love playing with ideas and trying on things like they're clothes, like trying on ideas like it's a new set of clothes or a new outfit, and just putting this thing on and seeing how it fits. I don't have to wear it forever, you know. I'm just gonna put this thing on and see if it how it feels to understand it this way. And one of the things that I played with like that was this idea that however good, like good is a funny word, right? You know, because like we all like to think of ourselves as good, but what is good really? I mean, it's whatever doesn't oppose me, whatever allows me to have like free flow, right? And doesn't stand in the doorway and say, no, you can't go past here. That is good. And whatever, you know, blocks me and is an opposite of me and gives me this resistance and opposition, we like to go, oh, that's evil. You know, it's something totally different from me, therefore it must be evil, it's bad. And but I've been playing with the idea of what if like, say, you know, I've given up this whole let's kick the dead horse of Bill Gates and Schwab and name your favorite villain of the day. I've given up this whole thing, because let's just pretend for a moment that Gates is the great evil that everybody thinks he is. And could it be possible that maybe he's actually doing what he thinks truly is right? Could it be that he is really just nailing his dharma, right? His destiny path of life, that he's doing it perfectly because he actually thinks that this is what is required for him. And he's pursuing that further than like most people are pursuing their idea of goodness, you know? Like, is that possible? And if that's possible, then what's the catch, right? Because we both like the Bhagavad Gita a whole lot, right? And you know, in the story of the Bhagavad Gita, you've got the great hero Arjuna who gets into he's about to go to battle and he's all stoked to go fight, and he's going to be awesome, he's going to slay evil, and he's all excited. And then he gets just close enough to the front line to look and see the enemy he's about to fight, and he realizes that these are his teachers and his family and his friends, and none of these people are people that he's considered to be evil. But he now has to go fight them. It's his destiny, it's his dharma, his life path to do this thing, and he has to go do it. But what if we play with that a little bit and flip it around, and we start thinking about the guys on the other side, you know? And Krishna, like when he does his transfiguration bit and he shows Arjuna, look, I am all y'all, you are my finger puppets. And I'm just like, oh, we're gonna fight now. And they fight and have this big clash, and Krishna just goes, we did it, you guys, we fulfilled destiny. Now the great circle is complete. What if we look at it from the side of you know, Arjuna's friends? Did they think that they were evil? Or was it just a matter of Arjuna's perspective? And what line did they look and they see Arjuna and go, oh crap, Arjuna's siding with evil? You know? Like, oh, yeah. So I wonder this sort of thing a lot with Gates. And you know, that's like Gates to me these days, after thinking about this stuff, Gates is small fries, man. That's like, it's mashed potatoes, it doesn't matter, it's filler food. Like, I love it, but like, who cares really? I mean, give me the steak, give me some Brussels sprouts, and you can take it or leave it with this stuff. But that's the fun part, man, is the realization that for you to complete your destiny and to go all the way with this really awesome thing, it requires that there's another component that is equally doing its destiny in opposition to you. And in that's the spark, right? It's like in Norse mythology, where the fire, the hottest fire meets the coldest ice in the void, and when they touch, there's all of creation. It just sparks everything into being. And that's I see this playing out all the time now. And so I think all of this stuff is metaphor. And going back to that Nietzsche quote, terribleness is part of greatness. Let us not deceive ourselves. And realizing that for the Superman to rise, there needs to be the underman. There needs to be something for the overman to stand on, to reach, to become the Superman. And there also needs to be an opposition from the top down to press the Superman down. Because like, it's have you ever worked in a grow tent? You gotta have fans. You gotta have fans for your little plants, or else they get real weak and they just like get to a certain. You try to grow basil without some breeze going on, and it sprouts up, and then it just, and it's like healthy, but it's weak and limp. There has been no resistance to give it the strength that it needs to be able to stand tall. So yeah. So there it is, man.
I love that. And then at the end of the battle in the Bhagavad Gita, the mother of the people who were killed sees Krishna and's like, you stood by and let all this happen. I'm going to put a curse on you. And, so many years you're going to be killed and all this stuff. And, and he's like, thank you, mother.
Yeah.
He's like, I just got to exit out of this realm. Thank you. There's so many messages in there. And then the other thing I have to say is I'm almost done building my cross. We're gonna have to crucify after that whole statement. Sorry, sir. You can't tell people to love their enemy. What are you, out of your mind?
Right. Well, Manly P. Hall said, we shall find in the cross we bear the secret to the crown we seek.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is so fun. People might hear this and be like, well, then does it mean you're gonna be evil now and bad? It's like, no, for me anyway, I'll speak for myself. Oh, and by the way, Mellow Fellow, yeah, my shirt, shout out to the chat. My shirt says Mellow Fellow, and it's Rodney Norman. I've had him on the show. Go check out that episode. It's hilarious, and he's a really funny dude. Shout out to Carrie and also Caribe Root in the chat, who's in Connecticut. So we got Connecticut peeps, and Zerlat's in Connecticut too. And the guy that I interviewed yesterday is from Connecticut too. It's like, wow, there's actually people in my area that get this stuff. So it's awesome. Anyway,
that's so cool.
Yeah. What was I talking about?
The Bhagavad Gita.
I love your enemy. I was gonna go somewhere else. That's all right. I'll think of it. But I do want to get back to you.
You were gonna tell me about the cross.
Yeah, there we go. I want to talk about the cross. So I've been playing around with this idea of realm Earth, and I've been trying to like define it a little bit. And the way that I'm defining it, it's just coming to me, is you think about the figure 8, right? Or the infinity symbol, where there's the cross, right? Yep. In the middle, they cross. So I'm like, is that the cross? And it lines up with what you said, because that is the human physical experience where we get to choose right or wrong. And Bill Gates is nailing it in his Dharma, right? Because he's not forcing anybody to take this experimental medical serum, and he's doing it like a hero. So he's actually living in accordance with the rules of the realm in a way. He's just using these ideas for what you would think is a sinister or dark, but it's just a degree on the scale, right?
Yep. That's
like
just
you were saying,
man. Yeah. Like, so
I want to say the most important thing about the reason I'm talking about this, and I'm sure you feel this way too, is not because we want to be fans of these guys or say it's okay. No. It's because we're like, oh, we don't have to blame them or be victims. We don't have to hate them.
Don't be a victim.
All right, guys, that's our show.
There it is. It's over, folks. We nailed it. Wrapped it up. Don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. Grow a pair. Be a man.
Want to be a victim?
Stop blaming everybody. Don't blame anybody. Like, look, Krishna says, the fools scorn me when I take on human form. My essence, supreme source of beings, escapes them.
Exactly.
Who does that describe better than the people that the truthers spend all day scorning?
Wow.
All day. That's all they do eat shit bugs. They go around and they make jokes about this all day. It goes back to what Odin said in the Havamal. The how does he say it? The miserable and evil-minded man makes of all things mockery and knows not what he should know best, that he is not free from fault. So we're going to sit around and make fun of people all day? And that's what I keep coming up against, right? Or at least coming across. I stopped coming up against it because I like backed off from all this truther business. Even in the last week, I've made even more steps to get out, because to me, it's just like with the Bhagavad Gita. Let me quote this to be exact, because this one's awesome. Just as a reservoir is of little use when the whole countryside is flooded, scriptures are of little use to the illuminated man or woman who sees the Lord everywhere.
Are you sure it says woman? No, I'm just
kidding. Well, she wasn't.
Women can't drive. Verse chapter 8, verse 2. No, I'm just kidding.
With their nose stuck in a book.
Just kidding. I love the women that follow the show. You guys are great. It's all the other ones, right? Am I right? No. Shout out to Bane Bear.
My wife speedily reads to me all the time, and it makes me feel like a king. I have a noble woman reading to me spiritual texts all day long, and it's the greatest thing you could possibly imagine.
That sounds like a dream come true to me. And shout out to Bane Bear earlier. He says, "Holy pie thrower." I chuckled. May I please use that, because he's a stand.
Do it. Yeah. Do it. Holy pie thrower, man. There is an archetype of the trickster, and everyone likes to talk about the trickster like he's literally Satan. But see, I've been called a Satanist. I've never called myself a Satanist, but I'll say full openly that to many, I am a Satanist. To many, I am the incarnation of Satan himself, because I am that which they oppose. It's just that simple. What is Satan? Whatever I am opposed to. Whatever he embodies whatever I call evil. So yeah, I am a Satanist to them, but to me, they are Satanists. This is how it goes, and it's nothing personal at all. And our existence in the same realm is required. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you know what? If I'm a Satanist, then I'm the coolest Satanist I've ever met, because I'm capable of looking at the other guy and saying, "You're a beautiful thing for opposing me. Thank you, because you make me strong." Like
you got
great.
It.
It's great. Yeah, come
on. No, dude, you're 100%
Bobcat
right,
Goldthwait.
Oh God, Bobcat, he was awesome.
I love that guy.
Yeah, the Police Academy movies. Don't get me started. It's funny because I sometimes when we're recording, it feels like we're just having a regular conversation. So I keep wanting to interrupt you with silly things like I just did, but I've been doing a really good job of holding myself back. But there's some things you said where I'm like, but yeah, I'll let some slip through. I gotta have at least a little bit of a filter. But you know where I was gonna go? I was gonna say about another thing about truthers is they always want to talk about the sheep and the sheeple and all these people in society. Man. And they want to call them NPCs. And I've been saying recently, I don't mind the term NPC or, the term itself if you're going to use it to describe someone's behavior, but to label somebody that's one step away from saying it's all right to kill them. It's like, I've seen this trick before. You know what I mean? Like, no, they might be acting like, NPC behavior, but I don't think there's like a non-player character. Like, I think that they're just there. We were like that once. And I know I was like that to some degree. But even in like if there's past lives or whatever, maybe we were like the worst. Or I'm thinking about it. I believe in global warming so maybe.
Well, think about this. How many things have you said just today? Like just today? How many things, idle stuff that you just threw out there just today that to you meant nothing? And you might not even know where that idea came from. Like you probably thought nothing of it. Like, oh, why did I say that? I don't know. Oh, whatever. And you go on with your day, right? But how many actual situations in your lifetime have you been in where you do things without ever thinking about it? I've had so many of these moments in my life, some of the most important big moments in my life, the defining things that lead to me having the most severe amount of pain that I've ever experienced in my life, that these things have most of them took place mindlessly. Like, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Oh, I wasn't. It's almost as though, hear me out, almost as though I wasn't in control of myself. Almost as though destiny itself just took the wheel and drove this thing.
Dude, I was just saying that to somebody today.
Yeah.
Like that similar concept.
I would not be where I am if these life-crushing things didn't happen. Stuff that made you just want to check out, you know, just be done with all of it, because like, this is stupid. This, I don't know how I even got here. You look around at what took place and like, I can't define any of this. I can't tell you any part of why it happened or why I did that or why I said
it's
that.
Like
or
marrying somebody that you don't really want to marry, but you end up doing it, and then you're like, what the fuck did I just do?
Right. And then you like come to your senses years later. You like come to your senses and you look around, you're like, holy shit, what happened? Where am I? And like, you woke up from a real bad dream and suddenly got control of yourself again. And I think that these are situations that had to happen. I'm not saying that you were a victim, that you didn't have control the whole time. They just had to happen. You know, like it was destiny. It was just going to happen. And yeah, a lot of these things can really, really blow. And it just takes away like sections of your sovereignty for moments, right? But then you get it back. And then you are now left in a position where you get to enact your own sovereignty and deal with it. And that's the part that you develop strength in, right? It's like destiny itself creates a catalyst in order for you to become better. It's like, how many people, if there wasn't something that you did through your own stupid actions that you had to overcome later, there are other people that got hit by cars and had to like overcome this paralysis or whatever it is, you know, like getting thrown off a horse and now you're quadriplegic and now you got to deal with that. And it's just absolute destiny grabbing you by the balls and saying, we're going to move you here now. And now you get to deal with that. What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with that? And in that process of dealing with it, you become something incredible. And this is you know, I know it's gotten to be really popular to shit on the hero. It's gotten to be a real popular thing because that archetype has been more subverted and maligned than the holy pie thrower itself, more than the trickster, more than Satan. The hero has been the most subverted figure. And I think that a big part of the problem, or a big part of the problem with that being the case, is that if that's allowed, and if that's allowed to continue, when you're given back the reins and when you're allowed to like, okay, now here you go, destiny hands you back your life, and what are you going to do? Now you have an issue with becoming the hero yourself. You have an issue with seeing yourself as a hero because you've devalued the hero everywhere else. There's no other hero for you to look at and go like, oh yeah, we love heroes. You know, when you look at the Greek concept of the hero, it is exactly what we're talking about. It's a demigod. It is the son of God that is grounded to earth. That's a hero. It's usually regional. It's a specific place, but tied to the soil itself, like part of the ground. And so this any time that we move so fast to demonize the hero, or like, you know, we're presented ample opportunities, ample like subverted heroes, ample fake heroes. Hollywood does everything it can to botch the hero and destroy it and just malign it, you know,
to
like,
make Aragorn a little wuss that was like, I don't know if I want to be king. It's like, oh no, read the books. He was like, yeah, he's like,
exactly,
we're doing this.
But that was an easy one. Look at what they did to Luke Skywalker in the other movies.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's just
I blacked that out of my memory.
Loser.
Talk about something else. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know, but that's a perfect example of the subversion of the hero that goes on day to day in our society. And if that's not enough, what they'll do is they'll pitch you Trump as a hero, and then they'll break Trump in front of you and watch it break, so that you get to watch it break, so that you go, oh, I'm never trusting a hero again, including myself. I won't be that either.
What a genius thing they're doing for us.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. But if you are capable of superseding that, of refining the archetypes within yourself, of saying that I am the hero and I'm going to learn what the hero actually is, then you're capable of, when it comes time to be the hero, you can snap into it. Because all of these archetypes are internal. It's not some external thing, but they're influenced by the external that gets presented to you. And so that's like the big fun to me. You know, it's like is trying to work these things back and go back to the roots of these things. If the hero is grounded in earth, get me a shovel. Remember what I was saying earlier? The schizo pointing at you in the parking lot. Hey, buy a shovel. Yeah, this is where it goes full circle. You see what I did there? That wasn't intentional.
Wow. Well, you didn't have to tell me that, but I could have just wondered. No, yeah, no, that's amazing, because it's like Source talking to you through this crazy guy, like, get a shovel, and then later you're going to decode it. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe he's going to take a shit and he needed a hole, but you never know.
Yeah, that's most likely it.
Yeah. That's hilarious, dude. I love that though. That's so true. It makes me think of, like we say, the Greeks, but also I think like the Catholics had the saints as their idea of heroes, you know, in their whole canon or whatever. And there's a lot of really good stuff that came out of that. You know, you look at like Thomas Aquinas or like St. Francis and the prayer of St. Francis, you know, there's a lot of truth there. And that actually now leads me back to what I want to say about Bill Gates. Because he believes that he's doing good, he's showing his truth. And that's why people follow it, because he's being true. Like Donald Trump, maybe if he believes what he says, like, I think that's why I don't think people like this are in on it to the degree a lot of truthers think, because it's better to have a useful dupe, because then they believe it, right? Yeah. And then people resonate with that frequency of truth and they follow right off the side of the cliff. By their own choice, though. They're choosing it. So, you know, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing with, see, I'm not like a full-blown Gnostic or anything, but one of the things I really like about Gnosticism is it leaves this big open door for things like the idea of the NPC. And like you had mentioned the NPC earlier, and what Gnosticism provides is this understanding of the Archons, and there are these overarching spirits that are basically, it's exactly what Paul referred to when he talks about our weapons are not against flesh and blood, but against rulers and powers and principalities and spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. So he's specifically referencing, at least it's my belief, he's specifically referencing the Archons. And so I came to this understanding a long time ago that if a man or woman, because, you know, we're classy these days, but if a person isn't in control of themselves, if somebody isn't driving their car, something is going to drive their car. And this doesn't mean that they're soulless beings. It means right now they're soulless beings, that right now they are being steered by the Archons, that there's something else in control, and that thing has a plan. And since you don't have a plan, I'm going to do it for you. Or just because, like, the whole universe fights against a vacuum. It will not allow a vacuum. And there's this whole concept of inertia that like objects in motion continue to stay in motion. And so once that ball started with your birth, you're going to keep going. There's this great commercial from when we were teenagers. I don't know if you remember it, but it's like this dude, this woman in the hospital giving birth, and she pushes this baby out so hard that the thing flies out, and it flies through the double doors of the hospital and just starts flying through life as fast as it can, and it ages and it's aging, it's just flying, and then it lands right in a casket. It's just, as an old man, it just landed in this casket. But I think that this is entirely possible, that there are people, and I'm sure you've witnessed this. Crowley said that a man doing, let me phrase this right, a man doing his true will has the inertia of the universe to assist him. So the way I interpret that is that if you're going about actually doing what is your true will, so like, say, like you, Brandon, or like Bill Gates, or like me, or anybody who's actually going about doing the work, like for realsies, FR, they're just going for it all the way. If they're doing that, all of the beings that aren't bothering to steer their own vehicles are going to be caught up in their wake. And it's like, you read Crowley. How many times did that dude say, don't follow me? I don't want a religion of preachers. I don't want to be echoed for generations. He like said this stuff all the time, yet he had a whole following and spawned a religion. He said it over and over. But you see, I think what happens is if people aren't controlling themselves, if they're not steering themselves, they will be steered. They'll be caught up in the inertia, like a boat, like a giant yacht driving past a dude on a little inner tube. It's just gonna get sucked in there into those waves, and now your ride is that thing's wake. And I think that that's exactly how it goes, is that there are lots of people who just get caught into these things out of necessity, because it must be, and it's like, what did Krishna say? It's better to follow your own dharma than the dharma of another. But if you want to follow the dharma of another, all you have to do is nothing.
And I think he says it's better to fail in your own dharma than succeed in another's, which is even more profound.
Yeah. Yep.
Dude, our chat is on fire right now. This is great. Paraplegics in here busting our balls. Let me read this one. Because I laughed when I said it. Says, hey, it's Brandon's twin brother. Is he telling everyone he used to be a sex addict also? Just so everyone thinks he's been late a lot? I think it's all made up, and Brandon is actually still a virgin.
No, he's not a virgin. Me and Brandon came to my house. He's not a virgin. Hey! What up?
It's a gay joke. Remember when people used to do those all the time? And then I do it.
Remember gay jokes back in the day?
Dude, I did one at the owner of my company who taught me how to DJ, who, I've seen in some pretty crazy situations. So it's like, what? But no, nothing gay. But anyway, so we were in front of this one groom, and I was a couple years ago, so I totally forgot how it was, but I made some kind of gay joke and it did not land well. And I was like trying so hard not to laugh inside. Because to me,
when it doesn't land, it's even better.
It's even, yeah, because it's more funny. It's just not funny to these people, but it's hilarious to me, because I'm like, oh yes, like, yeah.
Yep. You get to live the holy pie thrower moment.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it was like, come on, dude, stop.
It's like the original holy pie thrower. The dude who showed up. He disguised himself as a serpent. He climbed a tree, and he's like, hey man, eat the fruit. Eat the fruit. The original holy pie thrower. Yahweh shows up. He gets really pissed. He did not like that joke. Started just cursing everybody.
Quit it with all these pranks. Yeah, dude. And again, it's a choice, right? I think that's why they highlight it that way in Genesis, to show you it was a choice. And was it a bad choice? I don't know. Did we want to keep the animal consciousness? Because what you're saying about the Archons reminds me a lot of the Law of One, where they say like a small percentage of people will go to the next density of consciousness. They'll go up higher, but on the dark path or whatever. And it's actually harder. You got to polarized like 95% negative, whereas to go up the good path, it's like 50% or lower or whatever above.
It's true.
So I feel like these Archons are just doing a job at the end of the day to help people in this realm do what they got to do. Like on the Oversharing show, we're always like, do it till you're done. Like if you got something that you're doing and you're ashamed or you want to start better, or even people you see like a drug addict out there, you could say they just got to do it till they're done. Maybe it means they die. Maybe it means they almost die and then they wake up and they quit, you know? So in that way, did I just lose where I was going? What was I talking about again?
That's impossible. You nailed it.
It happens to the best of us. I don't know. I'll think of it. It happened. You know, I just create these worlds in my head. I was talking about that with Rodney, actually. He's the one who said that. He's like, you know, people like us, we're talking and we create these worlds in our head and we're going right and left. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait, where was I going again? All this is so beautiful.
There's some dude with a sign that says free beer. We're like, what? And I can't remember where we were going next. But
I know I was talking about like my friends and stuff, and I could kind of add to that. It's kind of like, because, you know, I've known a lot of people, and I would see some people like on Facebook in the beginning of 2020 that were like crazy about the mask. And I'm like, you're crazy about wearing a mask, but I know what you did, like, you know, in bathrooms at bars or whatever. You know, it's like, and you're worried about a mask right now? Come on.
Don't worry, you already got monkeypox, man. Relax.
You're the original spreader, lady. Like, you are that monkey you're talking about.
You are the monkey.
Black. That wasn't even a racial thing. I'm just saying.
No, just spider monkeys.
Yeah.
It's okay, so going back to the beginning, we were talking about metaphor and how I was saying that life itself is a metaphor and that it all works out exactly as it's meant to work out to fulfill the metaphor. I think, you know, since we brought up the serpent in the garden, I think it's a great metaphor, right? Because like Lucifer, in my opinion, is the ultimate example of this itself, right? So take the biblical implication of Lucifer. I know you've heard me rant about this over text, but you know, Lucifer wasn't in the Bible. He wasn't a biblical figure until 350 AD, where Bishop Jerome, the patron saint of bad translators, I like to say, but the patron saint of translators, he was real pissed at another bishop named Bishop Lucifer, who was given the name Bishop Lucifer in the church because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a problem. It meant phosphorus. It was a reference to Venus, which was a reference to Jesus. It was like the bright morning star, you know, the son of the morning, all this kind of stuff. And so, you know, which Jesus himself called himself. It was that. It was an honorary title, right? Because, like, you know, these bishops, when they were canonized, they took on another name, and they were given
Pirate Roberts
the name. Exactly. So they chose this name, like they didn't actually had, like, I can't think of a good Pope name, but like, let's just say Pope Lucius the 15th, you know, like there were no 15 lines of dudes named Pope Lucius, but you know, there's this group who got real insistent that Jesus was not a deity. There were this whole, you know, anti Trinity movement. They were pushing that Christ wasn't eternal, that he wasn't there in the beginning. And, you know, that's neither here nor there. Who cares? It's monk beef. It's some theological gobbledygook. But the point is, he was you know, after these guys were declared heretics, you can look them up. They're called Arians, not Aryans, but Arians. It was called Arianism.
Wow, Zerlath in the chat said,
"Oh,
right,
dude,
before,
you nailed it! Yeah,
just before you said it, and there's a delay, so yeah." And monk beef, yeah, speedily, I caught that too. Monk beef, it's making me hungry. And I also wanted to say, but I don't want to interrupt you. What were they? Bishops or whatever. Bishop Jerome also sounds like the patron saint of grape soda. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but you know, he did his translating. I'll tell you this. He did his translating in a town called Bethlehem, and he spoke fluent Hebrew and Aramaic. So you could Make your own judgments as to what kind of hat he liked to wear. But he so he was real. So after these Arians were declared to be heretics by the church, Bishop Lucifer was very insistent that the bishops and monks, that the leadership that adopted this heresy, that they not be allowed back into leadership positions within the church, that they not be allowed to have the sacred rites. There's like a higher level of communion that he was insistent that they not get. They not get to teach anyone anything anymore, because clearly they can't be trusted to think, safeguard the orthodoxy or any of this kind of stuff. Monk beef. It's a whole thing. And so Bishop Lucifer was real insistent that this not happen, that these guys not get back in to influence anything else, which is sort of a funny thing, because this same doctrine is the same thing that a certain tribe likes to say about Jesus as well. Like, oh yeah, he was a great man and excellent, maybe even a prophet, but no, he wasn't a god at all. Like, not at all. And so it's like, it's very much in line with a modern day retelling of this thing. But anyway, Bishop Jerome, in order to demonize Bishop Lucifer, he took a job to retranslate from the certain parts of the Latin Bible, the Vulgate. And so he retranslated a certain section in Isaiah. The only mention of Lucifer is this particular section.
That's amazing.
So he retranslated this section to say it was Lucifer who fell from heaven. Even though it was directly talking about a Babylonian king, he intentionally mistranslated it, named his enemy, his doctrinal enemy, and accused him of being this thing. And now here we are today, 1700 years later, and we have this entire crazy mythology that's found nowhere in the Bible. Like, nowhere in the actual Bible is this mythology about Lucifer found. And yet people will go on, these truthers who the truth is not in, they will go on and on telling you about like all these different, he had pipes, he was made of pipes, he was the most beautiful being in heaven, he was actually a worship leader in heaven. And they make up this entire story about this. And just continuing the lie of Bishop Lucifer. And what I find really funny is that this is a nail that has two heads, right? So for one, Jerome demonized Bishop Lucifer, his enemy. Bishop Lucifer was in line to become the next pope, but after that, he spent the rest of his life trying to defend himself. So he never got to be pope after that. The next pope had very different ideas from him. It totally changed the course of the orthodoxy at the time. And then the second head of this is the exact metaphor that I'm talking about, because now we have an entire demonization of a specific archetype attached to a specific name. That's all done. And I don't think Bishop Jerome had this had any of this in mind when he executed this. I think he was just going after one dude. Yet
which
here
is
we are.
Hilarious. That's like the best, like,
now 1700 years later, everyone I don't like is an evil Luciferian.
Like, if you're gonna like pull off a prank or try to nail somebody that did you wrong, that's like one of the best ones ever. You know,
he nailed it. It was the ultimate,
nailed it,
man.
Ultimate burn.
Yep. And so it's incredible, because he basically, nobody is going to go research Bishop Lucifer, right? If I say Bishop Lucifer, you should look into Bishop Lucifer, they're all going to go like, oh, you're a terrible Luciferian, which is actually the name of Bishop Lucifer's followers, were Luciferians. That's what they called themselves. And so now everyone who's trying to, who says that, I don't know, anyone who says anything that all the truthers disagree with is automatically a Luciferian, tying them to these people who were actually trying to help them. And that's the amazing part. This goes back to the serpent.
And Luciferians were Trinitarians also, so they believed in the Trinity, which is hilarious.
Yeah, they believed in the deity of Jesus, like going back to the beginning, that Jesus was there in the beginning.
Which a lot of truthers also believe.
It's wild. It's wild. It's perfect. It's beautiful and hilarious.
It's a perfect inversion. It really is. Wow.
Get this. Go ahead. So I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but so the serpent in the garden, right? Serpent in the garden.
Hang on. Go ahead. I got my allegedly hat on.
Allegedly, the serpent in the garden comes. Allegedly, he gets in a tree, and allegedly, he says to Eve, like, no. God lied to you. You can touch it and you won't die. Don't, like, for real. Look at me. I'm touching it. I'm not dying. So yeah, that was a lie. What that guy said, right? Like, it's very clear if you just read the text. That was a lie. It's in the text. It's in the Bible. It's infallible. Sorry. Allegedly.
It was kind of like when Obi-Wan Kenobi said that Darth Vader killed Anakin Skywalker when he,
exactly.
From a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view. And then you take it further, right? So then the silly woman grabs the fruit, and instead of just touching it, she eats it. Whatever, she eats it. Okay.
Women.
Maybe I think that was the serpent's plan, was to get them to eat it. And when they ate it, their eyes were open, and they were no longer golems of Yahweh. They were no longer slaves. This is what Plato talked about when he gave the cave analogy. They're no longer stuck in the cave looking at shadows going, this is the real world, you guys, look at this. No, but their eyes were open. They got to see the outside of the cave. All right. And then Yahweh, what does he do? He shows up and he curses everyone. He curses the woman. From now on, you're going to have pain in childbirth. And then he curses the snake and the woman together, and says, you two are going to be in enmity forever against each other. And then he curses the man and the snake, and he's like, and he's going to bite you and you're going to crush his head. And then, and then he curses man forever. You're going to toil for everything you do. You're going to toil for it. And then he separates man from the tree of life in the garden. He sets up an angel with a flaming sword and separates man from the tree of life, so that man no longer has access to the tree of life. But then you have Jesus coming later, right? And what does he do when allegedly he dies and allegedly he breaks the curses? What were the curses he broke? It was only the ones that Yahweh placed. He did not undo the eating of the fruit, which he had full access to doing so. So what Jesus did is he hits the reset button. He undoes Yahweh's curses specifically. He establishes himself in the book of Revelation as the tree of life, so that anyone who comes to me has access to the tree of life. And he creates himself to be this thing. Then he undoes he undoes the law of sin and death, according to Paul. He basically undoes all the curses that Yahweh placed on man. And then what does he do with so he basically puts things back in place where the serpent left it. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? He puts it right back where the serpent had it before Yahweh shows up and starts cursing everybody. It goes right back to where he had it. And it starts to make you wonder, right? Because, like, what is the figure in what did they put on a cross? What did Moses put on a cross so that all who looked on it would be healed? It was a serpent. He put a serpent on a cross, and anyone who looked up at the serpent was healed of their affliction, which I find to be a really funny thing. It's kind of like, and I was raised in church, like I said before, like super Pentecostal. I've seen Benny Hinn like a dozen times. I've personally had Benny Hinn touch me on the forehead, and I've seen all this stuff. I've seen more preachers than most people can name stand-up comedians, but when I separated myself from the biblical narrative, from the narrative that I was fed through thousands of years of buildup and theological discourse, and I just pulled back away from any of that orthodoxy, theology, debate nonsense that was drilled into me, and I looked at the story itself, it became quite apparent to me exactly what this story is. And I love that stuff, man. I think it's absolutely hilarious how if you just read the text and just stick to the text, that the narrative is drastically different than what we've been force fed. You know, and this goes back to that warping of the archetypes, the changing of this, the ideals of what this stuff represents. Because no longer is the serpent something evil. Now the serpent is something that you need to be wary of. But he's not there to be evil. He's there to open your eyes. And that could be something great, and it could be something terrible. But as we know from Nietzsche, terribleness is part of greatness. Let's not deceive ourselves. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then that ties into the Lucifer thing, because it's all a damn joke, man. It's all just a damn joke, the whole thing. And you know, we spend thousands of years taking ourselves so seriously and trying to have this like perfect theology and perfect doctrine and perfect thesis that we can like all lay out there, and you know, if you're not, then you're a heretic. And we throw around the heretic word so lively. It's great. Yeah. Anyway, there's my rant.
No, it was a
rant number 2.
Rant number 2. How dare you?
I'll have another one soon. Don't worry.
It's birthing now. I can feel it coming. No, I love what you said, especially about the reset, because it kind of reminds me, it just brings me back to modern times. Like all the stuff you were saying earlier about like Bishop Jerome and Bishop Lucifer, it sounds like Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump. You know what I mean?
Go.
Like,
yep.
Maybe that was another way too to keep all, not a way to keep, but it's just something that kept people also in victim narrative or whatever, because they're on this side. That was like the modern politics of the day. You know, they're like writing letters. You know, like Nancy Pelosi, we're gonna get her in the sewers. Like
that's another thing I'm realizing is that like they don't even need to pitch that narrative, man, because like look at it, like Pelosi isn't pitching that narrative, Trump isn't pitching that narrative, like Hillary isn't pitching that narrative. They're pitching that they should all be locked up for different things. None of the stuff that the truthers are saying, none of the stuff that the conspiracy theorists, that's not coming from them. It sort of makes you wonder. It's always coming from the people after the fact. It's always third party. It's fourth party, fifth party, you know, like all the way down the line. And the further, well, I heard a quote today. Somebody was talking about Martin Luther, and they said that Martin Luther may have very well been the only true Lutheran. And I laughed my ass off. I thought that was the greatest. Yes, because the further you move away, the more these things become impossible to follow, because it's one man's mind. And for you to know that entire mind of the man, how the hell are you going to do that? You know, and then you're going to claim that you have the divine doctrine that was given to this one guy. You're going to like defend it, and all else are heretics. I love it. It's so clowny. It's the holy pie thrower, man. It's beautiful, because these things create themselves in a natural organic state. There's not even a villain. Like I used to, I still give truthers shit all the time. I'm doing it right now, but I'm not in a state where I say that they're evil anymore. I just say that they are a natural byproduct of their environment. They are a cosmic, beautiful force that is required. That's required to obfuscate the truth, right? Like when they, in the book of Matthew, they asked Jesus, hey, why do you speak in code? Why do you keep talking in parables? How come you just won't talk plain? And he says, because if I tell them plain, then what little that they have now will be taken away from them. Meaning that you'll be held accountable for what you know. Therefore, I can't tell you everything, because if I tell you the truth, then you're going to be held accountable for it, even though you might not be ready. But if I tell you in code and you decipher my code, if you figure out my parable and get to the bottom of it, then you're ready for it yourself. You've reached up and taken that fruit from the tree and eaten it. And it could be the fruit of the tree of life, or it could be the fruit of the tree of knowledge. But either one of those, neither are bad. But these things require obfuscation. This is why I'm so in love with the occult, is because I'm in love with what is hidden. You know, like it says in, I think it's Isaiah, it's the glory of God to hide a matter and the glory of kings to search it out. Do you want to be a king? Get a shovel.
Get a shovel.
Again. Get a shovel.
Get a shovel. You want to be a king? Get a shovel. Hidden. You heard it here first, everybody. Also, I have an idea for you. This is more like a challenge. I don't know if you have the time, but you should start your own show and call it Monk Beef.
Monk Beef. That sounds like labia. Some sort of labia joke.
It reminds me of Chinese food, actually. So, but yeah, I guess if you want to,
I guess yours is more G-rated. I like it.
No, yours is funny too, because I thought it was a thing for a second. I'm like, wait, did I miss that?
It's some sort of Vietnamese dish.
Yeah.
I'll have one monk beef and fried rice.
You want that spicy or extra spicy?
Extra spicy monk beef sounds painful.
The chat is on fire right now. People are loving this. Speedy Lee says, get a shovel. Loves it. And then Wig Splat is hilarious. Also, what he said something earlier. I was gonna I don't know, we had a little paraplegic bear in there going crazy. He's funny. I always text him. He's like, text me when you're live. I'm like, come slang coffee. No, I didn't say that. I was like, we live, and exclamation point GGA.
Why didn't God put the tree on top of an unscalable mountain with thorns for bark? Well, Jesus did have a crown of thorns, man. I mean, it's hard to climb across. Nobody wants to do it these days. You know, climbing across, it's unscalable. So yeah, you're spot on.
And going back to what you said about love the occult, it's like, you're not, so when it's words, right? Some people might hear a word and think
they get
something
triggered.
Different of you, because it's not like, well, this is the thing, like we talked about this on the show recently with Joe about occult magic and stuff, and kind of like dark magic or whatever it is. And we were saying more like, I think this realm was more about raising your consciousness. Yeah, those are powers you could do and play with, but I think it's a distraction at the end of the day.
I agree.
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
Agree. Yeah, I think
interested in these ideas and the stuff that is like you could decode and find. And what I've found is like, it just helps you with yourself. It's like self-work, you know, getting to know yourself really.
Look, everyone loves power. Power's nice. Like you if you think that you're not interested in power, try going a day without it. Just tie your arms behind your back for a whole day and see how it goes. And then you could experience what life is without power. But when you make power your only goal, then it becomes twisted. It gets to the point where, you know, I've got bodybuilder friends, and he says, you know, you get to a certain point, you got trouble wiping your ass. And that's the truth of it. It's like, if you get so much power, you get so focused on getting this occult power and all that, you get to the point where you can't wipe your ass. And it really requires that you pursue wisdom. And wisdom is the understanding that power isn't the end all. That allow wisdom to be the end all, because then you'll have the wisdom to know, if I put on more beef on my arms, I'm not going to be able to reach my ass with toilet paper.
Especially if you put monk beef on your arms.
Yeah, man. You got to watch out for that monk beef. But I think any pursuit that's outside of the pursuit of wisdom itself, and I think, you know, I think Reagan had it wrong. Knowledge isn't power. It's wisdom that's the true power. Because without that, you're not going to know what to do. And wisdom is always hidden. It's a requirement. That's in the Bible, man. It's like, where your heart is, there your treasure will lie. You want to find where your treasure is? Go get a shovel and start digging in your own heart. because that's where you're going to find. Get a shovel for your ass.
Yeah.
Speedy, that's hilarious.
Speedy,
But
another message to Speedy. Allegedly monkbeef.com might be available, so make sure it's not available by the end of the night. Anyway.
Oh my God. But yeah, like when I say occult, all like occultism, occult, whatever, all that means, it's a word that means hidden. Occult is if let's say I have this very beautiful beard brush. Oh yes, I like using it. It's very nice. Now, if I cover it up, it's occulted. I have occulted it from you. Is there a hairbrush in my hand? Yeah, but it's occulted. And it requires you to have the fortitude to grab the thing that's on top of it and lift it off. And now it's no longer occulted. Now it's on the surface. Now that knowledge that was once occult knowledge is no longer occult knowledge. Yet when you walk up to anyone else holding this hairbrush and say, like, look, I can move it and it'll blur into my background, right? Is it in my hand? Yes, it's in my hand, but it's been occulted. It's been blurred out. You can't even see it. That's all it is. You go to show somebody else, like I'm trying to show you right now, and my camera's just making it part of the background. See, it's illustrating my point, and other people can't even see it. They go like, holy shit, that's dark magic. Be careful, man. You're going to have nightmares, man. That's how the demons get in, man. Because all they do is fear, and they worry, and they cry and moan and complain, and they're victims of everything. They're victims of themselves. They're victims of their own dreams. They're victims of their own religion. They're victims of their own philosophy. They have no philosophy because their philosophy is for babies. And that's what it comes down to. And, you know, the big difference between, say, like black magic, I think black magic is simply anything that you're using for your own selfish desire, for your own selfish gain. I think black magic is obsessing to an unjust degree over what it is that you eat. It's obsessing over what it is that you watch. I think people that spend all day, every day watching videos on anything. Like I love, like let's pick on archaics for a minute. I love archaics, but I've met some people who obsess like to a insane degree, to the point that they miss the point, that they miss all of it. They can't repeat a cognitive sentence back to you because they flooded themselves with this obsession with what this man has to say. And I think that is black magic, that they're looking for in this research. They're looking for a source of power that they can grab onto and make their own. And like now I'm the powerful one. I know things, and oh yeah, and I've studied. I'm careful what I eat, and I work out twice a day, and I drink only the finest water from Mount Fiji. And you know, like they obsess with this stuff. That's black magic, y'all. I hate to break it to you. It's just the way it is, man.
That's so true. Oh my God, that's great. By the way, Fiji water has fucking fluoride.
I was so mad when I found that out. I was so mad. But honestly,
core water's still good though, right?
I like it. I mean, if
it's occulted.
It's occulted.
I heard it's good for cutting up with swords too.
I love it.
Shannon says we are the greatest occult items, and then she put one of these.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, like, man, it's the glory of God to hide a matter and the glory of kings to search it out. I think that's beautiful, that God himself hides things for you. It is a literal Easter egg hunt. And he hides wisdom all over the place for you to go and find it. And then when you go and find it, and then you're like, you just desperate. You're doing that whole black magic thing where it's like important to you somehow that everyone recognize that, like, oh yeah, you got it, you go girl, you got all the knowledge, and look at that. And then you're like, I want that, I want people to say that about me. Look, you guys, look what I found, I got all the Easter eggs here. They're like, I don't see them, you didn't get anything, and even if you did, that guy over there has got like 5 more than you. Like, who cares? Who cares? What are you doing this for? You like, recognition is a joke. Recognition is a joke. I mean, we live in a world where all that's required is for us to recognize ourselves. This is like, I hear Brandon preaching this all the time. Is that just look within, man? Look within. That's it. And he's spot on. And that's all you got to do.
On that message since, like, I was reading an old blog post I did from like 2014 or 2013, and I was like, wow, I was saying this shit back then in just a different way. Like,
yeah,
let's be my message I'm here to spread, you know. It's the only
there you
thing
go.
I can say.
Well, most people only have one message, you know, and they spend their life reiterating it over and over and over in a different way each time, you know. And I find that with myself, is that, like I was telling you before the show, I love offense. I love offending people. I find it to be one of the most useful tools, and I'll do it as kindly as possible and use the biggest words I can muster all in one go, because I know what it does. It's a spell breaker. And through the offense that I cause in you by using words like occult, by saying things like Lucifer did nothing wrong, and the serpent was right, and all this stuff, and revealing these things, when I say stuff like that, what I'm doing is causing anyone who disagrees with me to feel offense deep enough that for just a moment, it just highlights the prison bars. It shakes the prison bars, and they go, oh, they might realize that, hold on, there are prison bars there? Oh my God, I had no idea. And I've seen over and over and over people, and I'm not looking for anyone to agree with me. I'm just looking to highlight the fact that you are still in the cave. You are still in Plato's cave. That is all. Come out here. I might look at a very different tree than you, but let me tell you, there are trees out here. They're not just shadows. And the tree that I go to and look at, it might look totally different than any tree anyone else wants to go and look at. And so when I walk up and I'm like, hey man, this tree is so cool. Look, it's kind of knotted. It's like knots everywhere. It's like twisted and weird. It's so cool. And everyone else is like, that's not my truth. That's not the truth that I want to live by. And you're a heretic, or you're a Satanist. And they go off on all this stuff. I'm like, don't you realize there's more than one tree? This is a forest, y'all. It's a fucking forest, and it's beautiful. And like, so
Tolkien
what
has
if
a
I
boner
wanna...
right now with all these trees.
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, that's just it, man. It's I find this stuff to be the most amazing pursuit that I've ever come across, because in the process of learning any of these occult secrets and deep rituals and all this sort of stuff, I'm not finding anything dark. I mean, it could be interpreted dark if you want to. I mean, if you're desperate to see the darkness, you're going to see darkness. But let me tell you, there is a what is it? There's a comfort in darkness. It's like a mother's womb. There's a comfort and safety in the darkness, and there's a beauty and splendor in the light. And to say that one is good and one is bad is just foolhardy. It's a foolish stance. And if you want that stance, I mean, all right, go for it. I can't stop you. I don't want to. I'm too busy looking at all of this amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's all highlighted in the yin and the yang. You know, the yin and the yang. Is that another Mandela effect?
It's a Vietnamese meal is what it is.
Yeah, it is. It's monkey. I'm gonna have some
one bowl of yin yang.
I remember when it was yin yang, and now everyone's like yin yang, and I'm like, yeah. You sound like one of those people that's like, can I get a little pasta vajul? It's like, no, you gotta say all of it one way or
pasta.
Can I get a little beats? It's like, what the hell just happened to you? Did you just get possessed by Tony Soprano? Anyway,
yeah. Cocaine.
No. Cocaine. I love what you said though, because I feel like my mission is very similar, but the more I think about it, it's also like to take those ideas that offend people, but make them laugh at it.
Yeah.
You know, like, because they laugh. And then like I told this story recently. You'll I don't know if you heard me say this, but I went down to a DJ convention in Atlantic City this year, and well, as we were leaving,
That sounds loud,
dude. It was so loud.
DJ convention.
Yeah, it was. Well, we go with this is the part of the story I told too, but we go to the convention center floor, and that's why we go, because all the companies are displaying. So all it is like the inside of a hotel where they have the convention center, giant room where they would do like car shows or whatever. And they just, everyone set up speakers and they're playing all different songs. And I'm just like, no, like I had to wear earplugs. So I'm like, cause it's all beats and,
every time someone's like, hey, Mr. DJ.
Yeah.
Like everyone turns around.
And that's the thing. You get a lot of guys that their whole ego, and this, not judgments, but my ego was never really the DJ, because I was like 32 when I started doing it. And then I started doing comedy a few years after. So I was more of that. So I didn't really identify as like, but you see these guys, they have like their name tags or like shirts that say like their name and DJ, in there. Some of it's marketing, but some of it's like, is that your whole identity, man? Come on, talk to me. Look inside. No. So I was there, and as I was leaving, we bumped into this guy that we know. He's a DJ, and he's been doing a very long time like us. And he wears a small hat, we'll just say. So my other friend, who's had more business dealing with him, and he kind of screwed him over a little before, and he's, he could be shady, surprise, but he's a nice guy, nice enough, and he's funny. So anyway, super liberal though. Like he has a Ukraine flag on his social media. But anyway, so Dwayne, this guy's name is Ari, big surprise. And my friend Dwayne was like, tell him that thing you said, because on the way down, driving down, I told him about the Holocaust. Like that's what we call, because he's not a fan of the experimental medical serum. So I was like, we call it the Holocaust. And so then he says to me, as we're leaving the convention to go get in our car and drive to Connecticut, we see Ari, and he goes, tell Ari that thing you said to me. So I was like, oh, the Holocaust? And Ari was like, he laughed. And then he was like, that's offensive.
I can't believe you said that.
Oh, dude.
That's amazing. Like, I can't.
This is the thing. I've seen these guys in very compromising positions with like women, and just, I know that I know they're scumbags, and they know that I know, you know what I mean? But they're good guys now. Well, everyone's grown up, but they can't really be offended, because I'm like, oh yeah, you're offended anyway.
Right.
So I was getting ready to explain why 6 million might be too high, but he was referencing offense because he thought the whole coronavirus was real. So I just laughed it off. I was like, oh, all right, cool, because I don't have enough time to explain. But I was gonna start to explain to him how 6 million probably is too high. Like it would have been exciting, because like I said, I know him on that level.
6 quadrillion, man. It was 6 just go for the gusto.
It's a number we haven't even invented. It was 6 infinity.
Guys, 3 times the population of the Earth died that day. all in a roller coaster. I'm gonna get you in trouble. I'm not gonna get
no, I think we're funny enough for people. It's just comedy, everybody. Listen, I'm really good friends with all kinds of people. So
I'm a big fan of Jewish comedy, and
yeah. That too. And I could bust his balls. And the funny thing is, I heard all this stuff by a guy who calls himself, he wears a small hat, and he was on Phil Donahue, and he was like, hey, 6 million sounds high. So it's just what I say is like, there's people out there that are interested in truth, and then there's people that use these labels as like liability shields. It's so funny.
Exactly.
And they both call themselves Jews. It's like, oh yeah, some guys are just wanting truth. But anyway, that was so funny, because he's like, I'm offended. And I'm like, you just laughed. How can you be offended? Like, no, you can't laugh at something and then say you're offended. Like, sorry.
Some folk are desperate to be offended. And it's like, that thrill. It's exactly what I was talking about. When you offend somebody, you give them a feeling. It's sort of like a cutter, right? Like somebody who cuts themselves to feel alive, because I can't feel anything unless I feel pain and this dramatic thing. But these are the same people who do this with offense, and they're desperate to be offended, because that's when they can feel the most. And so they go around looking for a reason to be offended, like all day long. It's a victim mentality. It's just, and there is, speaking of victim mentality and 6 quadrillion, they kind of just how it goes, man.
Speedily says, I'm a fan of Jewish comedy like roller coaster death camps.
I love roller coasters.
Oh man.
I like electric floors. And then the floor, it got electrified and then it filled with water.
What about the jack-off machine? That one's got to be
Oh, man.
That's a holy pie thrower right there.
They were trying to get our cum.
He was like, there was like guys making up narratives, and he's the one that's like, how ridiculous can we make this where people they can't believe this. This guy's like, you know what? I'm working for the other side. I'm going to make up a narrative that's so crazy people aren't going to believe it, right? He actually doesn't believe it, and he wants to get the message out, so he puts that, and then people believe it, and he's like, fuck.
I read an article on Wikipedia about a rabbi who was given an award, like some very prestigious rabbi, and he's his backstory is he was born in a gas chamber. Okay. He was born, well, everyone else was dying. This baby was born in a gas chamber, and he survived. Well, I'm gonna get you in trouble, man. but I read that article, and I thought it was.
And then he was raised by the people who was trying.
I'm a fan of Jewish comedy. Let's just.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying.
Of
dude.
The master pie thrower, man, like throw a pie in your face and laugh, and you can either laugh or you can get really offended. I don't know.
Yeah. And to take the other side, it's like people will say, oh, they're so evil, these people. It's like, no, dude, they were telling the funniest jokes ever, and people are fucking believing it. You know, your parents believed it, so it's on them, you know, like,
yeah.
I was born in a gas chamber, and then the people who try and exterminate me raised me. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the people who thought we were cockroaches then took me and took the time to raise me to be a decent person who can write a book. Because
if everybody in the gas chamber died, then there must have been a prison guard that scooped you up off the floor and said, I'm going to raise this baby.
I'm going to raise my baby. Little maggot, how I hate.
SS Jew baby. Like, what is this?
Oh, man, it's great.
Jewish comedy.
But yeah, it's hilarious, and that's the thing that I say. It's like, well, if you fall for it, man, you know, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You know, I got some land, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona. I'm gonna sell you.
And see, that's exactly it. I think that all of this, including the actual genocide that was done to the Germans after the war, all of it is a giant metaphor. It's all a giant metaphor. It's the internal archetypes playing out externally, because within everyone is a dude that wears a little hat, trying to get the gold, trying to look like they're the smartest, coming up with tests that they can throw to their friends that can prove that, no, I'm the smartest one on the planet. You guys, I want you guys all to know this because I've watched 6 YouTube videos from this guy. And, you know, like, everybody has a tendency to do this stuff. And these are all as within, so without. As above, so below. This is all stuff that we learn really early on. These things are, it's all just a metaphor playing out for whatever, man. I like to think it's for our betterment, but I
think it's like a training ground of sorts.
It is what it is. Yeah,
you're right. It's kind of like a training ground for sorts. And without that resistance, like Nigel was saying this yesterday, like, not the resistance is like the second law of the universe or whatever. Like, you need resistance. Like you were saying with the poor little baby basil out there, no one's blowing it. No one's blowing your basil.
Basil's so weak because no one's blowing it.
It's going to be limp.
You don't want a limp basil. Let me tell you. I got some pharmaceuticals I could sell you for that limp basil.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, because nobody wants to blow the basil, so it goes limp, and then they want to get a pill to fix it. It's hilarious.
So to be upset about the metaphor is a silly thing. It always starts there. It's important that it starts there because you have to feel the upset. I'm sorry, go on.
No, you're totally right. But what I wanted to say about the metaphor thing even earlier, this reminds me of an idea I have that I've been spreading around. Well, another unrelated one, but I think Jesus was a comedian in the Bible, and they took all the humor out. I fully believe, like, he went into he was in the temple and he saw the money changers and he flips the table. He goes, haha, now the tables have turned. You know?
That's funny. When I was when I was like an atheist. After I went from Christian, I went real hardcore atheist. I was like real mad. All religion should be banned and all this stuff. But I near the end of that, I started getting curious about stuff, and I like, picked up what was it? I think it was the Gospel of Thomas. I think it was that, and I started flipping through the Gospel of Thomas and reading the sayings of Jesus, and I'm like, holy shit, I've been following an opium addict the whole time. Like, you start reading that, and it's just like, and then they came to him, right? And they asked him, like, Lord, what will it be like in your kingdom? And he goes, when man and woman are one flesh, and there is no longer man or woman, then there'll be peace in my kingdom, and the man will be the woman, and the woman will be the man. And it's like, holy shit, the dude was just high on opium the whole time. Again, I had like no understanding of what I was reading whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it just sounded like a dude that was just like laying there with an opium pipe. They had to pull the thing out of his hand and get him to talk for a minute, and then they put it back in his hand before he got real mad, because none of these things made sense.
By the way.
Yeah, what, Jesus is opium lighter?
No, just being the opium guru. Like, you just suck opium all day, and then they're just like, just kidding, everybody. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's perfect. But it's funny stuff, man.
Yeah, really, I love that. Stuff. And then when you go deeper and like you were saying, you learn what these occult ideas are, and it's just like a code. Yeah, you're like a little code breaker, and I really think there's a lot of comedy in there. And the other thing I want to say is people that there's like literalists that will take the Bible literally, and then there's people who say, no, it's all written in the sky. It's just all these archetypes and skies or archetypes and stories that are passed down, and then they put a person there. But what if it was both?
That's what I'm saying this whole time, is that it's both. The metaphor is real and it is fake. You get it? It's fake and it's real. Yeah. It actually happened, and it's a joke.
And of course, it actually get the Roman version. Yeah, but of course we get the Roman version though, so we're not going to get the true story. But the true story probably goes something like, if you ask somebody who their favorite apostle is, nobody says Judas, but Judas was the one that facilitated the crucifixion. Judas is the one that had to.
Everyone should feel bad for Judas. Yeah,
because he had to do it, and that's why they showed him killing himself, because he couldn't live with it. That's how bad of a thing he had to do in order for the story to go how it was supposed to go.
Yep. Without Judas, there'd be no forgiveness of sin. Not that it matters. It's just,
but still on a certain level, to some people that would blow their mind. It's like, it takes a Judas,
Well, you look at, I know people who are still mad at Jews for having killed Christ. Yet Jesus himself said multiple times, no man takes my life from me, but I lay it down freely. So do you not believe
there's the thing
Jesus?
about how he forgive them, Father, for that what they do also, but go ahead.
I mean, like, go ahead, get mad about usury, get mad about, like, be legit though, man. None of this stuff that demotes your own God figure. Like, what are you doing? It's really funny.
Speaking of usury, in the life of Brandon, I'm going to share stories of my life when I say crazy things to people. I got into a car accident recently, and I'm okay, everybody. It was not my fault. The guy ran, but then they caught him.
You've been sitting the whole time. You should have said, I can't feel my legs anymore. But
yeah, I'm the new paraplegic bear. Move over, paraplegic. I'm the new one. I got all this coffee here.
It's amputee bear.
Yeah.
No more coffee. It's all tea.
I was walking down the street and I got hit. So I got a rental car because they caught the guy. He ran, but they caught him and he had insurance. So I was very excited. So I got a rental. And when I was at the rental agency, since I have an SUV, they were going to give me an SUV, but it required a credit card. And I was like, because before I went down, I'm like, hey, do I need a credit card? Because, I don't believe in usury. My belief system, I can't, But when I got there, the dude was, it was a different guy. So he hadn't heard me say that. And he was saying something about getting a bigger car. And I told him about the credit card, or something came up. Oh, the deposit. And I'm like, well, he goes, you can use a debit, but if you use a credit card, then there's no hold on it. There's no hold on your money. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. And I go, besides my belief system, I don't believe in usury. I'm like, it's really bad. And he was just, because the whole time I came in, he's like, "Oh, you're so cool." Like he was like being a really cool dude and we were vibing. And then I said that and he was just like, "Oh shit." It's like, "I'm going out drinking tonight now." No. But I've said that to people at the bank too, because this is what I find. And I also say it to people at like Marshalls, because I love Marshalls, not that they need a commercial, but when I'm in these stores, the employees are required to ask you, and just like my bank part-time, they're required to ask you to get a credit card. And I get that they're just doing their job and they probably get a bonus. Like I used to be in the car business, but they also have all these canned responses for different things that you might say, but no one's got a canned response for, I don't practice usury. They're just like, next. They're like, "All right, let me finish your transaction."
I used to do that at Target all the time. They would like, because they're always pitching a Target red card or whatever it is. And we could tie it straight to your debit card, and it doesn't even take any financing, whatever, and they pitched me this card, and I'm like, no, usury is a sin, man. And they're like, "What?" It's
they're like, "All right, see you later, next guy."
Yeah. Oh, all right. Like, that's against my religion.
Yeah, that's what I say. And I just say it's against my belief system. Like I love to just put it in, like you could say religion, then but when you just put it in these words, they're just like, "Oh, okay." Like with the whole covering your smiling face, I would just go into it. I even said to somebody one time, I'm like, I perceive anybody that's trying to get me to cover my smiling face as a direct threat upon my life, and I act accordingly." And they just looked at me and they're like, "Go ahead."
I had this thing, like people would come to my door and they'd have the mask on, and I'm like, "Dude, my dad told me all growing up to never let masked people into my house."
My daddy said, "Never
my
let a
dad
masked
said
guy in
if
my
you let a
house."
masked man into your house, they're gonna steal your shit. So no, you can't come in.
You could go like the Italians when they go, "You got a little pasta fagioli or a little pizza." You could be like, "I don't let people inside my house because my daddy always said," just like go in a Southern accent,
I live around Southerners all the time now. So
now you're great. Yeah, you're good.
I found myself on the phone today because I'm trying really hard. I got this conversation. I got this patio furniture that was supposed to be delivered like 4 times, 5 times, and it just keeps not getting delivered. And I just hang out all day and wait for it, and it never happens. And if I don't make a phone call, I'll just never hear from these people again. And so, I know it's not this particular guy's fault. I've talked to him a few times, and it's not his fault. And I'm trying really hard to not act mad at him. And I find myself slowly adopting a Southern accent as I'm talking to him. And I said, I'm beginning to wonder if I piss someone off inadvertently. And he goes, "It's funny. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?" And I'm like, yeah, because the more calmly I tried, calmly and kindly to explain my position, the more I wind up lately just adopting a Southern accent. It's kind of hilarious.
Well, it goes with it really well.
Yeah.
I love the Southern
I'm
accent.
your
I was actually
Huckleberry.
thinking about that the other day, about the Southern accent, because I'm like, did it really only take, a couple hundred years for all these people to speak differently, or was it some kind of accent of a language that was already there? Like if you hear a French person speaking English, they have a certain accent. A Southerner has a certain accent. Was there another language there?
Well, they say that the Southern English is just a take on Victorian English. They're just sort of a little development of classic Victorian era English.
Who says that?
They.
Yeah. So what if there's another language is what I'm saying? I know I've heard that too. And that does make sense. And it does sound similar, but you get people down there speaking like this. Like, I'd like to imagine maybe it's like a leftover from a different language.
Right.
Maybe that language was spoken in England before also, and that small group of people still has it,
Try reading different quotes from around the world in the Southern accent and just see which one fits best. Like, honor is simply the morality of superior men.
Oh yeah, dude. It sounds like some Civil War general about to go to battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the way we're told. What another farce. But yeah, I love Southern culture and the true Southern culture, not the cracker culture that they try to foist upon us. The true Southern, like biscuits and gravy and like
yeah,
everybody's down home, but then they're like really suspicious of outsiders. Like I
real
dated this,
suspicious. Yep.
which is another like, where does that come from? Right. They probably have a valid reason. And when I was in the Marine Corps, I lived in North Carolina and I dated a woman, and her her grandmother was in the hills of like Kentucky, North Carolina, Tennessee area. You know, you could like see all three states. And so it was like deep in there, and they were like that. And at first they were like, oh, this damn Yankee or whatever Yankee. But then after they saw how just ridiculous I was, they're like, oh, this guy's great.
Yeah.
But and I saw that and I was like, wow, it really does exist. And then just the way they treat you and the way everything's passed down, it's just another total culture. And it leads me to ask, like, was it just because a bunch of people moved down south and got all down, you know, when the explorers came here, some moved down there, and then, or is it left over from a culture that was already there or something, you know, like it's crazy.
I wish I had answers for anything. It's funny because like I've kind of taken on this almost a persona. I'd say it's like it's my favorite version of me, where it is I see myself as superior because to what I once was, I am superior. I am somebody who,
you're a different person. I heard someone talking
yeah,
about this today. They're like, it was a guy who channels people. I totally forget his name, but Joe is the one who sent me the stuff. And I know he watches this show, so he's probably going to be like, it's this guy. But anyways, this guy channels somebody, and when he was channeling, he just basically talks to people. He's like, it's kind of like he's a comedian. It's really funny. I'm like, like I'm really scratching my head after watching this. I'm like, I could do that. Like, even if I'm just fucking around. But anyway, he'll just
yeah,
talk to people and tell them how it is. And this one lady was trying, like, she was kind of victimy, right? And he was just
right,
saying, like, there is no, he's like, when I say now, he's like, now, he goes, now is the only time that exists, right?
yeah,
And she was like, he's like, do you get that? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, okay, I'm done. And then she's like, and he laughed. He goes, okay, well, if there's now, only now, that means the future and the past are both made up. So that person that you were in the past, you're not that person anymore. You're a new person. You're a different person. So therefore, that's not your past anymore, because you're not that person. You're a different person. So you
spot
have a whole
on.
new past in that way in the present moment. And it blew my mind. Anyway,
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, that's it, man. I've been seeing
Right.
myself as being something superior to myself and superior to even my own projections of myself, and I sort of force myself to witness myself as I actually am, and which is how I choose to perceive myself.
Like the
Because,
Matrix with the clothes.
dude, that's exactly it. You are how you see yourself, and that is exactly it. Like you live in a mental construct anyway. The I itself, like the I itself, only shows you what you want to see. You can like you'll I don't know, man. I could I remember one time my this is like first example I ever had of this. My grandmother was very, very judgmental, you know, like super judgy. And you know, she uh tells me, go put this in the trash out down by the street. And so I did. There's only one trash can, and I go put it in the one trash can that's right in front of the house down by the street. And I come back inside and she says, which trash can did you put it in? Was it blue or was it purple? And I'm like, it's the only one there. You don't remember what color it was? No, no, not at all. Like, why would I know? Like, and I'm racking my brain trying to figure out like what color was it? Because it's apparently a very important question, because she's like getting upset about this. And that was my first demonstration that the eye itself only sees what the eye desires to see. I remember one time I did
Especially when you're an introvert.
yeah, I did a
Because you're
bunch
in,
of mhm, did a
go
bunch
ahead, go
of
ahead.
magic things, you know, like little magic ground growy things. And I had this amazing time where I like found where I was in life. And then I, you know, I walk upstairs and I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I'm old. And I'm like, I could see every line on my face, things I had never seen before. I look at my hands and I saw every single line, every crack, every little blemish, everything that I had never seen before. And it's been years now, and I can look and they're all still there, and some of them are more, but it actually takes an effort for me to focus to be able to see that. Or else I look in the mirror and I look at myself and I'm like, yeah, I look 30. I'm like, I look like a 30-year-old with a beard, you know, but
Yeah.
it's really fun. I'm not anymore, but
Yeah,
I
so it's
still
that
perceive
happened to me.
myself as this.
Somebody's like, "Are you 28?" And I like got an inch taller in the past 3 years somehow, and I feel like I am looking younger than my pictures, and I
Yeah,
feel it has to do with this. It's how I perceive myself.
it is.
I'm 46, and I was telling people for a while that I was 47 for a couple months because I screwed up the math, and it just doesn't matter to me. I'm like, it's just a number.
Yep. It's
But yeah,
wild,
dude,
man.
it's nuts.
Because I've been realizing that in this persona, this superiority persona, where I actually give myself credit for what it is that I am, and what I've studied, what I've been through, what I've been tested on, what I've overcome, the mountains I've climbed, the version of self that I've had to smother with a pillow and then bury and mourn that person that died, that was me. That realization that I have gone through all these things, and I'm well able to stand strong in the fact that I did go through all these things, and that I have grown from all these things. And the knowledge that we pick up along the way, and the wisdom that we get from all this stuff, I've made it a real point to allow myself to see that, similar to looking in the mirror and allowing yourself to see the gray hairs, or allowing yourself to see the wrinkles on your face, and leaning into that more, and kind of allowing yourself to own it, right? And I've been having a blast with this idea of self-perception, of allowing yourself to be exactly what you are, whether that's good or bad or whatever in between. And it's really funny, because that alone puts a whole different spin on the golden rule, doesn't it? Because if you really allow yourself to be yourself, now you're doing unto others, well, that some people might not like that, what I would do to myself willfully out of desire, you know, out of a desire for growth. The things that I put myself through would kind of to them come across as a real terrible, terrible thing for them to have to deal with. And so it's been a real incredible time going through that, realizing that, if it really does all come down to perception, and my ability to walk in the fullness of what I am comes down to my own perception of what I am, then which one am I going to allow to happen first? Sort of like a chicken and the egg thing, right? Like, if you're incapable of acting out of your true self because you don't know what your true self is, then that's a problem. But if you don't know what your true self is because you've never gotten to see yourself do it, that's another problem. And you wind up just like this befuddled man who's like constantly railing against everyone who lifts their head up. Like somebody will walk into the room and hold their head a little taller than you, and you like, what's up with this guy? He's all stuck up, he's full of himself, what a narcissist. We go off on these people for really, because they allow themselves to be themselves without judgment. And so we go off on them, we call them names, call them a narcissist, say that they're full of themselves, say that they think they know everything, and we like accuse them of all sorts of stuff where we don't know. They really might just be being their truest self, and actually putting an effort into understanding what that is. But we like to discredit. That's our favorite gig, right? Because we're always constantly trying to say that this metaphor that we're living in isn't actually a metaphor, and it all actually matters way too much, and we're like doing this whole victimy thing. And I think it's really hilarious when you're able to really sit down and allow yourself to be it and force yourself to be what you see yourself as. And even if it's just like putting on a mask for a minute, I'm just going to put on this persona and try it out. Holy shit, that fits so good. And it feels great. And it feels like me, and it feels right. And yeah, it's been an incredible experience. You know, I got another quote. I know I'm like obsessive with quotes all the time, but this one's from Julius Evola. He said, let me find it. All too often, people forget that spirituality is essentially a way of life, and that its measure does not consist of notions, theories, and ideas that have been stored in one's head. Spirituality is actually that which has been successfully actualized. Let me start over on that. Spirituality is actually that which has been successfully actualized and translated into a sense of superiority, which is experienced inside by the soul, and a noble demeanor, which is expressed by the body. So, I mean, this is the same concept as, what is it? I like to call it the aristocracy of soul. To be something that is like the archetype of the whole, right? Because the aristocracy is a reflection of the people that they govern. And that's simply it. You know, if you got a corrupt aristocracy, you got to corrupt people. It's not the other way around. So I think in becoming the aristocracy of the soul, you know, in like the aristocracy of one, when you see yourself as a whole, looking at the whole collective of you, and you embody the aristocracy and you take that form, I think that it's one of the most fulfilling things that you could possibly do for yourself. And it's not like a spiritual, I've heard people call it like, oh, so like spiritual masturbation then. I'm like, no, because that's just a self-pleasuring thing. This is you, like, say a white blood cell in your body. If that white blood cell in your body is convinced that it's a kidney cell and it tries to function as something that it's not, this is what we call cancer. Right? Like if a cell in your body becomes convinced that it's something that it's not, or it goes like, oh no, I'm just going to be humble. I need to be humble and not try to be the very best kidney cell possible, then you wind up with cancer. And that's exactly what that is, a cell that refuses to do its function purpose. And so I've been having a blast leaning into what exactly is my purpose in this, and discovering that through exploring it and being the aristocracy of self, right? And you know, if I'm going to be an asshole, like if everyone's just going to go, oh, he's just an asshole. If, you know, there are parts of the body that people don't want to talk about, but they're kind of necessary. And you might as well be the best asshole that there is.
Be the best anus. That's hilarious. I'm just going to be a breatharian so I don't have to use my anus anymore. No,
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I think that's like, you're being very true to yourself in that regard. And that's really, you know, I think that's what this realm was all about, trying to figure out your own path in it and your own piece, like a puzzle piece in the realm. And I made this analogy where most of us are like, we look at ourselves as an ugly puzzle piece, so we hide under the box. But then when we're finally found, we're put in place and we're like the sun. We're like,
oh, now it makes sense. Yeah, it's that whole thing.
Yeah, because we're yellow and everyone else isn't. And then all of a sudden we're the sun. It's like, oh shit. And then there's also beautiful trees in the painting. I'm not saying the sun's like, you know, but I don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah, people might think you're an Apollo worshiper or something.
How dare you?
How dare
the sun? I probably would be worshiping trees if I had to worship a physical object, although I don't know if the sun is quite physical, but it does interact on this physical realm. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, no, I think it's that's really brave also, because a lot of people are they just are, like you said, they have these ideas of how they think they should be, and they don't want to go against it because they don't want to get punished, or like they don't want to get condemned and all this stuff. And it's like, well, you never know.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's better to fail in your own dharma.
Yeah,
so even if it's you do this, whoever does, like we say, even Bill Gates, right? He's doing his dharma, and then if he fails, and then he does turn around and become this guy that's like a truther now, but like a real one or whatever, he starts a channel, he gets banned, like like Owen Benjamin, like he gets kicked out of the eugenics.
That'd be so weird.
Right?
Bill Gates getting kicked out of
he's like live streaming from his barn, but he's like not a shill anymore. He's like really trying to tell the truth.
Bill
but
Gates
like
outside of Bilderberg, I just wanted to tell you.
I can't believe how wrong I was, everybody.
There's a good character. The truther Bill Gates.
Truther Bill Gates. I
always wanted to do a truther Mickey Mouse. If
I think you told me about
9/11
that.
was an inside job. Yeah. just telling you up front.
Oh. They're making the frogs gay, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
It's a funny thing because Jesus said that if you're be either hot or cold, but if you're lukewarm, my Father will spew you out of his mouth. Now, here's the funny bit. Everyone always makes it sound like, the separation of the sheep and the goats is, you've got the sinners over here and the sheep over here, and you got to be one of the sheep or else you're a sinner. And it's bullshit. They missed the metaphor. It's nonsense, because Jesus said hot or cold. One of the extremes. He says only the lukewarm gets spewed out of the mouth. So again, it's going back to that extreme version of your dharma. Just do it all the way. You can't be afraid of being called a narcissist. All of the insecure people will of course call you a narcissist. You're taller than them. They're going to want to, it's like walking, you understand, you're a big, tall guy. If you weren't funny, like I learned a long time ago that if you're funny, you get away with a lot. You can get away with a lot of stuff. But
especially if you can pick on yourself too.
Exactly. And if you're not funny though, the big, tall guy that walks into the bar and isn't funny, can't crack a smile, everyone's going to try to fight him.
Yeah.
But if you could just be funny, it's fine. You can get away with all kinds of things. But yeah, it's a funny thing. And so everyone's going to go, oh, you're so tall. You're just showing off in front of everybody. You're trying to steal his girl, aren't you? Look how tall you are. You made yourself taller, didn't you? And it's like, well, yes, I am very tall. I am. It's like that scripture in Song of Solomon. I am dark and I am lovely. it's just any amount of self-pride and self-honor and a realization of what you actually are, and the qualities that the virtues that you aspire to are the virtues that you will hold if you continue to aspire. And if you just reach out and grab them and start acting from these virtues, then you hold the virtues. They are your virtues, and no one could say that they're not your virtues. I'm holding them. What do you mean they're not my virtues? What do you mean it's like a put on, right? Because from the second that you reach out and take them and you start idolizing them and moving from them and acting like these things are your holy maiden, like you're a knight that's sworn to this holy lady, this to the queen, right? And she's so beautiful that you can't even imagine like having sex with her, but she's the prettiest woman you've ever seen in your life. And when you make those virtues your own and you start holding them, no one can take that away from you, but everyone will say, bro, you don't have a chance, man. It's a hilarious thing. They'll say you're conceited, you're full of yourself, you're a narcissist, you're a dark occultist, you're a Satanist, and all of these things start simply becoming the what is it? It's the platform that you're able to stand on top of and push yourself up higher. And you just continue to do that within the metaphor until there you are. You become the platform for the overman itself. Anyway, I digress.
No, that's great. It reminds me of what that channeler guy said in this video. Again, I watched a bunch of it, and he was saying how he goes, just find the most exciting thing to do, the thing that excites you the most, and just do it, and don't worry about the outcomes in your life. You'll just attract it toward you. So it's really reminds me of that, you know.
Yep.
Just like Krishna said, Arjuna, don't worry about the outcome. You know,
yeah,
like you focus on your work. You don't worry about the outcome of it.
Crowley, a man doing his true will, has the inertia of the universe to assist him.
Yeah,
same thing. It's whether you love Crowley or not. That was a true statement.
Yeah, I often talk about Crowley's probably like, well, first I heard he was like anti-Zionist, and then also I heard I think he's like one of these holy pie throwers, you know, and he's probably fucked up too. Like he's probably had all this money and was just crazy, and but found all this truth. Like it's just a person, like don't put him on a pedestal or in a pit. He's just a guy. Like
my favorite thing about Crowley is I've talked to a whole bunch of Thelemites because I wanted to get to the bottom of this stuff. Back in the day, I was gonna uncover all the crazy secrets, and but yeah, so I spent a lot of time talking to Thelemites about Crowley, and like I'd read a thing and ponder it for a long time, and then go and ask a Thelemite and trying to get his opinion. And one of the things I really like the most about that particular group is they never, I mean, you would think, if Jesus goes and starts a religion, right? He starts a religion, tells everybody, hey, this is how you're supposed to live. This is how to become incredible. Do it just like me. Do what I'm doing. And monkey see, monkey do. Just do it, okay? And everyone goes like, okay, you're a god. We're going to worship you like a god now. We're going to base our entire religion around you being something separate from us and you being something we could never be. Right? They just totally missed the point. And then you got Crowley, who all the people who follow Crowley think Crowley's a piece of shit. They really hate that guy. They like love him and hate him all equally at the same time. It's really hilarious to talk to these guys because you're like, you'll ask him about like, hey, what do you think he meant by this? And you're like, I don't know. That guy, fuck him. And like, wait a minute, I thought you were a Thelemite. Yeah, totally. But that guy was a piece of shit. Like, oh, that's kind of amazing. That's kind of amazing, So I think that kind of goes to his credit a little bit.
Yeah,
that he was such a transparent person in a whole lot of ways. I mean, yes, he was a trickster. Yeah, he was a liar. He had a whole book that straight out said, I'm lying to you. Read this book. I'm lying. Don't study it. Only read it once and then burn it, And yeah, it was really funny, man. It's like, it's up to you when you get into Crowley, it's like up to you to decide what you want to take away from Crowley.
Yeah.
He never said any of what you had to take away from him. It's kind of incredible. I can't think of another religious figure that had anything like that. Everyone else is like, oh yeah, I'm God. I'm the second coming of Jesus. I'm Jesus. I'm, they all have something, some big claim. And Crowley's like, whatever, believe what you want.
Yeah, dude, it's nuts. Really quickly, I think there might be a misunderstanding in the chat. I'm not sure, but Sharon removed 7-Eleven's wrench, but it might have been because he called you an asshole. But just so you guys know,
that was me.
Sarkastic was calling himself an asshole, so I think it was a reference to that. But anyway, probably. I digress. Yeah, listen, it's the chat. Nobody gets offended anyway.
But if you called me an asshole, you wouldn't be that wrong. So.
Well, I mean, I think
I'm a holy asshole.
I think he understands if he had his wrench removed, like because of a misunderstanding. Like people don't spiral around here. So, yeah, we just do our best to keep out people who are being retarded. But I think he was all right. But yeah, no, that's the thing. I don't know if she caught that you called yourself an asshole because he said it's a sphincter or something like that. Because I was saying anus. So he's like, it's a sphincter, you asshole. So
that's funny.
Yeah, exactly. But out of context, I could see how it could be missed. So that's the thing about text. It's tough, like that's why like when we get in a room, like when I was at your house and we were just in a room with all these freaking legends.
That was so fun.
We
got to do that again, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Trust me.
Now we can have a big fire too. I got like, we could vape a pound of Coke, man.
We could vape a pound of Coke, bro. What a great inside joke that was. Vaping Coke. What was I gonna say? Yeah, that sounds amazing. Like I kind of want to teleport myself there. I bet if I believed enough, I probably could do it.
I think so.
We'll see. I was talking about that today with a friend because of my conversation last night that I had with Sean. He was talking about belief in knowing and stuff, and I was like, well, if it really is like a technology of belief, sometimes you have to have that knowing so you can actually really believe it instead of just try to make yourself believe something, you know? If you really have that inner knowing, like I basically walked on water one time, or I splitted the ocean city, like I parted the seas. I got sucked out into an undertow and I almost died or almost drowned or whatever, but I kept my head, you know. I remember there was a distinct choice I made where it was like time slowed down and I was like, well, this could be it.
Yeah.
But if I panic, it's not going to help. So I just kept swimming. And then all of a sudden I had a sandbar and I walked like a couple hundred yards back to shore.
Man,
In between these, you know, both sides of me were kind of riptides and I just walked in the middle. It was nuts, dude. So I didn't think about it at the time, but now it's like, because I totally didn't believe it was the end yet, you know,
yeah.
or
It's
whatever
one
it
of
was.
the best gifts that the ocean could give, I think. I had that once too. Surfing, uh, surfing out of my league, honestly. I wasn't ready for those waves,
How
and
dare
I
you?
just did it anyway. But yeah, I went under at the like first wave in a big set, and I just couldn't get a breath of air. You know, it was like a long time I was stuck down there and just getting rolled and then almost to the top and rolled again and then almost to the top and rolled again. And I started going like, fuck, I think this is it, man. Like I can't get to the top. And I just kind of embraced it. I didn't really want to, and gone like I just went like, "Ah, man, it sucks to go out this way, but I can't get to the top, and I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep trying anyway, but I don't know if I'm gonna make this one." And I finally made it. The set stopped, and I was able to get to the top, grab my board, and I was just puked water for a while, and got out of there, rode it back on my stomach all the way all the way back to shore. But but yeah, man, I, I never forgot that, because like I've had situations in my life, you know, the ones that really test us the hardest feel exactly like that. And that memory comes back every time. I'm like, I don't know if I'll make this. One time, man, I feel like I had a mental breakdown. You know, like I snapped. I couldn't understand why this sort of stuff was happening in my life, and I just bawled for like 2 weeks. And yeah, it was wild. And I kept thinking about that time of the ocean. How come it's not like that? When is this set gonna stop so I can get a breath? You know, and it finally did, and it changed everything. It's a really
That's
cool thing.
fucking, yeah, dude. That's so, you're right. The ocean is like, it's like a test, you know, sometimes for people.
Yeah. Always was, man. Like Julius Evola talks about how sailing, the act of sailing, is a perfect metaphor for heroism, and that if you want to understand heroism, go sailing, and you'll get it. Because what you have to endure and the strength that it requires to do these things, and you know, the rolling the dice with life and death, and then surviving. It's sort of like what Nietzsche said, that there's no reasonable men are found on mountaintops. You know, all the reasonable ones either don't climb or they fall off. They think too much.
Exactly. It's like after in Forrest Gump after they survived the storm, you know, like,
Yeah. He made his peace with God, didn't he?
yeah, Lieutenant Dan, you ain't got no legs.
Ice
Yeah,
cream. I do that to my wife every time I have ice cream. I just shove it in her face. Ice cream.
that's a good chance to do a southern accent too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Must be nice.
Man.
Yeah, dude, all good stuff. I don't know how long you want to go. I mean, it doesn't really matter too much to me, but I don't know if it's like getting late for you or whatever.
Will, do you have anything
Where can we go from here? Let's see. Well, why don't you talk about your show a little bit, I guess, and then because you do have a show, right? I put a link in the chat.
I do have a show.
I mean, I put a link in the description.
It's called High Magic. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I get to do it with James True, and it's me and his show. It's the coolest thing, man. It's it's like this. We'll sit around and talk. We hardly ever have an agenda or anything that we're planning to talk about, and we just have a couple people on and just talk about whatever comes up. And that's part of the fun of the magic, is you show up having no idea what's going to happen, but you have an awareness that you are exactly where you're meant to be, and whatever's meant to be said will be said. And it's kind of perfect that way. But I have a blast. I love that show. Right now we're on a bit of a hiatus. James is working on another book. He's hoping to have it done in the beginning of November. But he's busting that thing out too. Like he keeps posting updates on how many pages he's got written. It's kind of incredible, man. I'm so jealous. I got a book I really want to work on. I've written I've gotten as far as writing the outline multiple times. I really want to write this book. I got another book I want to write, but time, man, that's a difficult one to get. And I'm so jealous that he's got so much time to just do it. It's going to be a blast when it happens. But yeah, in beginning of November, we should be kicking it back up again. If anybody wants to get caught up, you can find us, links in the description. It's just called High Magic, and we just hang out and chat for 2 hours from 9 to 11. And that's another magic number, 9/11. But yeah, it's a good time.
Zeralath just said, tell Sark he should come on TFR Live with me. So
okay.
Zeralath is somebody I know from Connecticut. And
I love Zeralath.
Yeah.
That guy's rad. Yeah, he's been on High Magic a few times too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think you guys would have a really good conversation.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, I've got to hang out with you, and I've got to hang out with Zeralath before. Must be
what
nice.
A magical time.
I know, it really is. It's a crazy time. That's why I really enjoy the internet. I mean, you know, it might go out one day and come back and not be the same thing, but I think that these connections that we're making now are important. And if that does go down, I think that will be perfect. And then it's the time to get rid of all this distraction and then do what you're here to do. You know, and don't look back, you know, send letters to people like we used to, you know.
Honestly, that's why I think the internet won't go down.
Yeah.
There's this, have you?
It might for like a day.
Yeah. Just enough to make people panic, but I don't think it'll ever really go down. Not until there's some natural reset, not until like there's a flood or fire or some sort of big climactic event.
Pole shift or whatever you call it.
Yeah. The big capstone on the metaphor. I think that the internet will always be around because, well, it's like illustrated. Have you ever heard of the story of the Golem of Prague?
Have I?
Yeah.
It sounds really familiar, but enlighten me.
Well, back in Prague, this is in the 1600s, in the city of Prague. There was the synagogue that was being accused of having nabbed kids and sacrificed them. They were, believe it or not, they were getting accused of this stuff. And this is like part of the story, so I'm not like embellishing or anything. But and so, you know, they were worried that their synagogue was going to get burned and that they were going to get beat up and killed and all this stuff. So they went to the head rabbi and they asked him, his name's Rabbi Lowell, and they asked him like, hey, what can you do? And he says, let me think about it. And so he goes and he starts studying and he says, I got it. I'm going to make a golem. We're going to create a golem. And that golem, so what they did was they got together. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but they created a golem basically out of all the elements and incorporated spirit and breathed the breath of life into this basic clay man. And he came to life. and they named him Yosef Golem, and he protected the synagogue and all the Jewish people. And so, they would just give him tasks like, help us do this and that and that. And then he's also served on the Sabbath as a Shabbos goy. One of the guys who will go and flip light switches for you. It's the 1600s, so whole different, like, go fetch the water, go like do all the stuff that they're not allowed, because they're not allowed to do any work on the Sabbath. And that goes to varying degrees depending on how strict they are to their religion, right? Like individually. And so on the Sabbath, it was as far as like they took this so seriously that they couldn't even give him instruction on the Sabbath. So they would have to give him instruction on Friday and tell him all the things that he was going to do on the Sabbath day. And so then on the Sabbath day, he would just go about doing all these things. And his typical day was made up of doing whatever he was told, or whatever other tasks he was given. And also mainly just protecting the synagogue and the Jewish people that were there. And so, it's going well for them for a long time. Dude's doing just fine. Everything's going well. And then one Friday comes along and they forget to give him orders. They forget to tell him what to do. And then the Sabbath comes, and he, without having any orders, without having any instruction, or he becomes aimless. And this aimlessness drives him insane, because he's nothing. He's an empty shell. He's just a golem who's been created specifically for the purpose of just keeping the narrative going, for protecting the Jews, doing work, doing all this kind of stuff. And then they forget to tell him, and he goes nuts, and he starts destroying Prague, like just wrecking the place indiscriminately. He doesn't care anymore, and he's just like having a full riot. He's going full riot with it, just grabbing all the Nikes he can, if as it were, but just taking off at these things. But no, he's just breaking Prague, and tearing stuff down. He's like Superman, kind of super strength. And then so they run to the rabbi, and it's the Sabbath, so what are you going to do? You can't work. You can't even fight on the Sabbath. You can't like tell him to stop, because that would be work. And so they go to him, and they go to the rabbi, and they ask, like, well, what do we do? And he thinks about it. He's like, oh, it's a bummer, but I guess we're going to have to unmake him. And so they basically did the same spell, but in reverse, and they unmade Joseph Golem. And this, to me, the significance of the story to me is that people, like I talked about, the people who refuse to drive themselves, people who refuse to control themselves, will be controlled. It's not that they are soulless beings. It's not that they're background people or NPCs. They just refuse to take the wheel for themselves. They refuse to have personal sovereignty and personal struggle. They abandoned the principle of struggle long time ago. And through that, they become something that's driven by either the Archons or someone like you and me, who have will. And as we apply our will, they just get sucked up into the wake, and they'll come along. This is how you get fanboys, who are your fanboys for a couple days and then just start going nuts, right? They're like, I'm sure you've had these, right? They like, you're the coolest person to them ever, best person ever, and then you do something inevitably and they get offended, and then they try to like split your community or whatever. It's just part of their nature. And I think that is the purpose. It's one of the main purposes of the internet, is to give people like this who refuse to drive their own vehicle, it's to give them marching orders. Like, here's the thing to care about today. Here's the agenda I want you to push. And it's a driving force in creating the entire narrative of this metaphor. So I'm convinced that if they were to turn off the internet, then that structure would be gone. I mean, the only time it'll happen is when they want Prague to be destroyed, right? Because you're gonna wind up with crazy ass riots for no reason other than these people haven't been told what to freak out about today. You know, oh my God, should I freak out about Ukraine, or should I freak out about slavery with the shoes that I'm wearing right now that I'm going to continue to wear and buy more of? Or should I freak out about the V thing? You know, like, they haven't gotten what they're going to freak out about, and they require it. They need it. And I think that they'll completely go nuts. I think they'll completely go nuts if you kill the internet. And I don't, like, for real, I don't see any purpose other than if you want to just unleash these people to go nuts. I don't see a purpose in destroying it, because you're destroying your greatest tool. You know, you're unleashing the golem, and you're going to have to unmake it, because once you expose the golem, it needs to be unmade. You can't just leash it back again, you know. So unless you want to completely wipe the thing and wipe out a whole bunch of people who refuse to drive themselves along with it, then they're never going to cut the internet. I mean, unless that's the goal.
Yeah.
If that's the goal, you'll know it because they did it.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll see the riots. It's going to be wild if that ever happens, but I don't think that's going to happen within, like, I think it's going to be years before anything like that happens. Like, years and years, maybe like 10 years. I mean, I used to be a giant pessimist, but now I just think everything is what it is.
Yeah.
And having that perspective of not looking for good and not looking for evil, having that perspective kind of gives you a little bit more of a level view. It's like Crowley also said, the most of the time the truth can be found in the marriage of the two extremes. Not just looking at both extremes and examining them, but marrying them together, like merging red and blue together into one. Like, that's when you can see the truth. And yeah,
mind blowing. Making purple.
Make it purple.
Making purple. I think that's a good place to leave off. That was awesome. Very well said. So you can find me by going to morelawsmoreproblems.com for all your Brandon Bonanza needs, and check out the Oversharing show that I do every week. We're going to be premiering an episode this Thursday, with Chance Garton. So we're very excited about that. So check it out. It was a really fun conversation, and it's going to be this Thursday at 8:33 p.m. and hang out in the chat. What else could I talk about? Next week I have some interesting guests lined up as well, so check me out next Monday and Tuesday night. And thank you so much, Sarkastik Worlock, for coming on and not being too sarcastic, but being a big warlock.
My pleasure, man. Thank you. I really enjoy talking to you, whether it's live or not.
Yeah,
you guys in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out. It was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, guys. We had a good time, and we'll see you oops, I got the wrong button. I have to hit this one. All right, we'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye.
Sweet.